Hi, my name's Bob Greenyer, and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Welcome to O-Day, Circle of Life. It's the circle of life. Okay, that was cheesy. It's 19th of February 2023, and thank you for joining us here, WP for Truth, Tucker Point Dexter, Gordon Doherty, Rob, Creating Awareness, Starfish Troopers, Cosmic Dave, Corky. It's great to have you here. So did anyone read the contextual information I shared? I came across that a few days back, and I will draw upon those texts. Not that I am a theosophist. However, when someone has done a lot of research, maybe it's a shortcut. It might not be accurate, but I think it's a reasonable overview of some things which are important to consider, and the truth will out. So the stele you are looking at there was acquired by the British Museum at the early part of the last century from Egypt. It is a Coptic Christian stele. I had seen it before, but Cosmic Dave sent it to me following last week's presentation, and I think it is very appropriate to analyze this one with what we know now, because I think it all looks a little bit obvious. Or maybe not. We'll find out. But again, I don't think a lot is left to chance in this stele. I actually think that the masons that carved these at that time were much closer to the truth. Hi, Glenn Stringer. I wish I could say that. Schweisinger. I think maybe I've tried that a bit better. Hi, Wayne. Great to have you here on the podcast. Hi, Ron Muckle. And hi, 3. And hi, Tucker Point Dexter. So just wait for a couple of other people to come into the room, maybe. I've said this a number of times. In fact, I've said it a lot. Probably boring now. But when I went to pick up my kids from school on Thursday. Was it Thursday? No, Wednesday. Wednesday? Earlier in the week, I went to pick up the kids from school. I think it was Friday. And I was greeted with a door. And then on Saturday, I went round to a friend's house, and I was greeted with a balustrade. And these are those things. This technology has been in our faces all of our lives. On the door there, you can see we have our 3 vortices arranged. Okay, in our cross, with our focal point, with a pyramid. And then we have this spot here, and we'll be talking about that later. Here we have what they call brackets. I'm reliably informed. And if you look at the overall image here, you have a vortex, and you have the thing going between the center of the vortices here, which has 2 distinct structures. We have a fine one and a bulby one, a fine one and a bulby one, a fine one and a bulby one. Okay, and we have an angel of sort of classical design, maybe, I don't know, but someone that looks like they're flying and holding on to this thing so that they can fly. Interesting, eh? Hi, TP Sven. Hi, the Vippo, and hi, Louis Navarro. Hi, Yeah, We Burn Stuff. Another great handle. In this image of this door also, you have these 2 vortices with the cross, and it's proportioned correctly. And here you have something that we're going to talk about the structure of matter, and how I believe the kind of charge separation with these things. Now, is it electrons and positrons, like Matsumoto says, is going on, and you end up with just neutrons in there, because the electron cluster polarizes the protons so much so that they release a positron and a neutrino, and the positron and the electron bind themselves with the neutrino, leaving a neutron. That's Matsumoto's iton. And could that be the charge separation that's going on? Maybe. Either way, we do get vortices of two types, and they appear to be fractal. They have to have at least two, I believe, on each stage to be stable, although that is not necessary for all circumstances. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to, it would seem, 48. And we've argued that at length. So, my first blog, starting to break this down, was in early January 2017, called Homo Symbion. Could we learn to live with nature rather than just being intelligent or thinking we're intelligent? And this was actually a domain name I took out in 2007. I don't know why, I just felt I needed to. And I started writing to that when I produced Red Pill. And I was unhappy with, I wanted a non-advertising platform. And so I thought this would be locked into the blockchain so I could be ensured of its longevity. That was what it was sold as. And I posted on there early stuff that was in this kind of like woo-woo type area. And the tagline was lifting the veil and seeing the future. However, when they started to do adverts on there, I got a little bit jaded. I didn't want the information to be people to have to put up with adverts. And so I launched Remote View a couple of years later. Thank you to all those that helped support that work, with the tagline looking back to the future through insight and critical fiction. Okay. So how is everybody today? So looking at the stele here from the British Museum, you can actually go and look at this in beautiful, really high resolution on the British Museum's website, and we will do that. But I'm going to just fire off and start with the top part up here. This piece. Okay. Now, everything about this drawing is very, very precise. Your alpha on the right, your omega on the left. This is above the central line. This is below the central line. That is above there, that if you draw the line through the center of the chi. There is a flow between the alpha and the omega and back round through to the alpha. We're going to explain this, I believe. This one, angel, is above. This angle is above. The alpha is above the omega. Okay? This has something coming out of its core. This does not. There's a line at an angle between the two. I believe this is all deliberate. But what we're going to look at first is this smaller symbol up here, and next to it the bigger symbol. The smaller symbol, remember, smaller is on the left, smaller is on the left, bigger is on, sorry, on the right rather. Bigger is on the left, smaller is on the right, bigger is on the left. Everything about this is deliberate. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about angular velocity, okay, and our yin and our yang, our 6 and our 9. This is our 6, bigger, and this is our 9, okay, coming out of the 9, going into the 6, going out, and blah, 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 the cycle, going round and round and round. And we did a presentation on that, didn't we? Called 369 or Omega 69. So let me just pull that up quickly. We'll run through a couple of the slides from that. Hello, everybody. This is a slide from the line experiment. And you have a 6 and a 9 here on the inside of the quartz. You have this leaf-shaped structure, this petal. Typical structure that we see in these systems. And we have this which was cut, this alumina inside that was cut. And in this presentation I talked about meditation, where you have exotic vacuum objects coming from your fingers, like left hand rotated and right hand rotated, producing the two vortices that produce a flux loop between the two, and the resonance sound of going om helps you create this. Okay, I talked about the om and the mantra, and I showed some of these images. Now, note, one side is smaller, one side is bigger. One side is smaller, one side is bigger. One side is smaller, one side is bigger. Okay, one side is above on the aluminium foil, one is below. All right, and when we have our om shape here. Okay, this is in Alexander Parkhomov's 225-day reactor, nickel and hydrogen, in a silicon carbide tube. And he produced, he had calcium go from 1% to 20% in his test. Here it's below and above. This is in a indium experiment conducted by Alan Goldwater in his Magic Sound lab. And one of these structures was boring through the indium and left this rather lovely form here. This is the Amasa gas on the tungsten. And you can see how the structure is ripping matter apart over here, and I discussed that. But this is more the 369. These are the vortices. These are the vortices. And they are what go into, in my view, the central point. Okay. All right. So this vortex, as Podkletnov said, when you had a superconducting structure, I don't know, something like this, which I worked out from looking at the symbol that is my symbol for remote view, which came from one of the paw prints in the copper oxide of Lion 1. There is a vortex going into the center point. This is the magnetic core. Things are not really damaged above here. And this is the superconducting flux loop. And so this is maybe the magnetic core here. And this is the structure in aluminium. This is the structure in the Hutchison sample. And this is the structure. And it's this kind of Sothic triangle type shape. Okay. Now, I did think it was the dark matter at one point, but the dark matter actually goes through ordinary matter, it penetrates it. So this is the actual disruption, the consuming of the matter. And so yes, you have a triangular vortex shape that goes into the magnetic core. And this is shown on this extremely old libation disc, which is in the Met Museum. And according to the Egyptians, from the loop down, this symbol represents the key to all hidden knowledge. Okay, get rid of my mugshot so you can see things properly. There we go. There we go. I was talking about this up here. So it's the spiral here. And this lines up with the mark that gets left by one of these structures in X-rays, where water has been exposed to sunlight in a petri dish, something like that, with 0.4 Tesla magnets underneath for about 10 days, I believe it is, and then they get hit by a laser. And what's happening is I think it has the south pole pointing up, and that is aggregating these natural clusters from the environment. They get bound to the oxygen, the paramagnetic oxygen in the water, and when you hit it with a laser, these things fly off. They go through different pieces of metal. They get excited by the silver in the photographic film. They blow up, and as they are disheveling, they leave these kind of marks. So this is interacting with materials, and we showed that in the ball burn sample from John Hutchison from 1986 in stainless steel, there was this structure, this 6-tape shaped structure, okay, which could look like a 9 if it was the other side, let's say, okay, 6 or a 9. And this is 40 microns across. This is an aluminium block, which we also have, so we own both of these samples, and this is from 2007, as far as I understand it. And this is 4 centimeters across, so 40 microns, 44 centimeters. There is literally no way that John would have known to carve this in 1986 at the 40 micron scale, and then done something similar in a block of aluminium a couple of decades later. It's just logically impossible in my view. So when you look at this slightly distorted hexagon here, all I did was I created the lines for here and I dragged it over there, and it's basically an exact match. Now you can see this right hand side one split in half, and when I first saw this bit, I thought this was one of these cones, like this one here. That's the same cone for the monopole that's in the structure. However, it's not. It's where the vortex spiral is coming down. So this is the start of the spiral there. And for reference, the other one is here on the ball burn sample. So you have this structure here. Now we're going to be looking at this structure when we start looking at more stuff from my archaeological expedition to the UK a couple of years ago. But we have this structure on the right here. That's a grab of this SEM image. And this is a long-lived plasmoid captured by Bogdanovich et al. And published, I believe, in 2018. Or rather, it was published in 2019. It was received June 29th, 2018. And in final form, October the 23rd, 2018, from Moscow Nuclear Physics Institute. And we're going to look at that paper again today. But it has this tail here. Same sort of thing. So I think you'll find that there is a vortex coming down. It gets to this particular event horizon, and the energy of the material that's being condensed gets intense enough that it starts to become luminescent. And these things move around for about 2 days. Okay, so we talked about that. And we talked about how these things would look on the side, and this is also on the ball burn sample. So if we go back, we're going to now look at this structure down here on the bottom left. Okay. And that this is here, and it has a central core, okay? And I spoke about the fact that this was essentially equivalent to this synthetic electromagnetic knot, which they are referring as something like ball lightning, which was published in Science by a Scandinavian group. This is the name of the paper. And so you can see somewhere between these two coherent structures, you have something that looks largely like the impact mark on the 1986 sample from John Hutchison. And then we talked about how this is a resonant phenomena, and you get these double spots appearing in sound. I won't go into that again, but this inspired Martin Lammers to do a simple experiment with a ultrasonic cleaning head and a beaker and some water and a light from the side, and he produced this. It's caught at a moment. Obviously the resonant waves are moving around, so down here you can see this structure, which very much looks like one of the structures which is kind of off resonance that was seen in the work of Solin's patent from 2001. You can also see all of these little ring structures around here. Lots of little rings. Okay, there's one blown up there. But if I play this, you can see the actual whole thing going on. And at one point, the problem is that the camera here is taking multiple frames. Like I think it's doing 480 frames a second and then interpolating to 960 frames a second. So every other frame is a guess, but this is an actual frame. And this shows your trefoil type structure as a substructure in this case. And then you've got one and it's overlaying. And you can, with your mind's eye, you can imagine that this is a vesicapicis, a fish bladder here in the center. And this is your on top vortex and this is your behind, or it might just be the other way around just because it's in water, you don't know. But this is represented by depressurization zones. Okay, again, there's nanobubbles in the water. You've got a light. When the water is achieves an area of rare refraction, you get the appearance of the nanobubbles and they reflect the light, and that shows you the structure. Okay? All right. This is another sample structure on the ball burn. And if you remember from my last presentation, or the presentation before one of them, I had the two Sumerian lanterns with the left and right auspicious symbol, let's put it like that, and they were overlapping and they are the same size. And this is the material in the breaker area where it's destroyed the matter, and some of the matter has been slapped down on here, and it's got this mesh structure. And we're going to talk about this mesh structure in the coming weeks and months, because we've now shown this on many different systems, and it is in line with cutting edge research in coherent matter. Here again, the Hutchison sample with it taken with macro photography. So this is the area cut out that's on the left here. It's now on the right, and it's overlaid with the vesicapices there in the middle. And this is another SEM. Okay. Again, other samples where they've seen this is another heart shaped. It's slightly offset. Remember, these things are offset, and it's got the vesicapices in the two spots here. This is on lion. This is on an ultra experiment. You've got a black heart side of the heart. You've got a white side of the heart with almost like a ring in the center there. This is on the Parkhomov. This is on a Mars's vibrator plate, palladium coated steel. And this is in the work of Tom Claytor, ultrasonics. And I forget the other colleague at the time, which Roger Stringham. I must get his name because it's actually his original work. And I showed this, and I showed this. Okay. Anything else? So I talked about how this very deliberate image of Tesla, I believe, is showing a lot of information. You've got your central bright spots, which I showed you in the water area there. You've got this zone around here, and the overall vortex nature. I think this is again a very, very deliberate image. And I talked about how this section cut cleanly out of the alumina was likely due to a vortex pair within the Lion reactor. Now, we see some with spots in the middle, and there's a little bit of torsion going on here, and in other cases there's no spot in the middle. And what we found with this work is that you get some that cluster together. Here's actually a trefoil here clustered together, and these are all of the same type. Okay, so we can get clustering of the same type, and I talked about Skara Brae, and we're going to return to Skara Brae today. And this is a 5,200 year structure north of Dublin in Ireland. Hello, Baron Arcanus. Hi, Felix Audet. It's great to have you here. I probably shouldn't say the T, should I? This is not our work, but I want you to think about these angles. And I also want to think think about how these things are internally structured, and the fact that we have a vortex coming out of here, which might be down, and we have a vortex coming here, which might be up, and how they seem to be kind of interlinked by the appearing bubbles. Obviously, we had this vortex, which we looked at. Okay. We had this pair, which I looked at under SEM. This is from the sound with the thing in air with two localized zones and this fuzzy bit joining between them. This is from Henk Uren's Vega experiment, and I looked at this and delved into the data and did some contrast adjuster, and you see that on each of these so-called fireballs from the Japanese 2001 journal paper, there are two bright spots. 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 Okay? We've got two bright spots. What are those two bright spots? I believe they are your yin and your yang, like this. Here's your bar galaxy with your whiptail going here, whiptail going here. And look at this. There's an angle here. There's an angle here. We're going to look at that. This is from Binjun Huang's work at Taipei University, Department of Energy. You can see that this is coming above, and this isn't looking like it's coming above. So the vortex is coming through here, but we've got something on this side and something on this side. And I expect that it's not arranged like this, that it's arranged something like that at an angle, like that at an angle. And I think we'll find it probably is. Here's some more yin-yangs. This is from Solin's patent. And this is one from Matsumoto's 1997 work. Again, these structures here, like Solin's work. So on. Okay, so that was 369. And I think probably we could say that that is enough of an argument to say that whoever in the, whatever it was, 5th, 6th century or 4th century that carved this really knew what they were talking about. They really, really knew what they were talking about. Okay. So, I believe that whatever it is, that is the charged structures, okay? In matter, they are basically butted together. You've got like two toruses. Like the little toruses that are in there, they're like totally butted together. But as I showed you in those plasma balls, they can end up separating a little bit. So you get like that kind of thing going on. Okay? All right. So this is all painted red, let's say, because it's north structure. But actually it's north because this is a strong north and that's actually a soft south. It's a bit weird, right? This here is your strong south with a weak north. So maybe I could have painted these, but it's not exactly that because they're like toroidal moments and there's this disruption beam that comes down. It's not quite as I'm saying there. Okay. But I think one of the most important pieces of work that tells you so much, which I referred to in my C.I.C presentation in 2021, was this. And in fact, it's very, very deliberate what I believe was being done by Bogdanovich. So it's this water flow plasma discharge experiments. Here it is. They've done it since, I think, the turn of the millennia. And in there, they produced a range of ball lightning structures and plasmoids of various types, which they are referring to them as. And when you are doing these, there's no separation going on. There's no separation. What you have is a mixed amount of these structures coming out. And here you can see that in this mixed structure, you have at least two examples, which are the clearest examples, which he chose, where the heads of each of them are coming together. Okay? The heads. Rather than the tails, which I believe is the beam coming out. Okay? The heads. Now, why would that be? Well, think about it for a minute. if you've got these things all randomly moving around, and you've got a north on the top here, or sorry, south on the top, let's say, and a north on the top here, then, because it's the opposite on the other side, let's say, it's quite likely that since the beam, like you saw in the sword on the Henk Uren's experiment, once these been broken up, let's say, or they're actually, maybe they still have the wormhole between them, but it doesn't really matter. They're so far apart that the field they're going to feel is the thing on the top. Okay, so they're going to come together like that, right? There's a lot more chance of them coming together with this big soft field than there is with this very, very, very tight beam. Okay, the beam has to actually completely lock on. And it might be the case that it is a beam of incredibly small diameter, as Rodionov said, if it's that kind of thing. So it's very likely that they'll come together like this. But when they're in the Henk-Vega experiment, in your plasma ball, they're kind of bound like that, or they can go like that, or they can go like that. They can just move around like that, like two spinning tops. Okay, they can orient like that. Okay, yeah. Now, what you're seeing on the right here, on the right, is you are seeing this experiment where they created exactly the same structures. Okay, not from a magnet like the other guy that I was talking about, but from and some water put into the sun and collecting them from the ambient environment. This is from a synchrotron, and they produce exceptionally fast high energy electrons, and they fire those into a conversion target, let's say tungsten, and there's braking radiation, Bremsstrahlung, okay, Bremsstrahlung, and that converts it to gamma rays. You've still got the residual electrons coming through, and then they have a strong magnet here, okay, and the strong magnet pulls away the electrons. So all you get going through is gamma, okay, but you also get these birdies, okay. And I said in my presentation at C.I.C in 2021 that he highlighted this not merely because of the reason he said they're the most visible, right? He highlighted those because they are going back to back. Why? Because you have a North Pole on here and a South Pole on here. Now, they argue that the monopoles that are appearing on one side and the other side of different types have been knocked off the faces of the magnets. Now, one could reasonably think that if a 0.4 Tesla magnet can allow for natural monopole-like structures to aggregate in the paramagnetic oxygen dissolved in water in the Perovskikov experiments, that the magnet themselves, being magnetic, would aggregate the different poles of the magnets. In fact, that is exactly what occurred in the work of Roitskev, where he exploded some metal foil. He had some iron 57 with a north pole on the back of it, an iron 57 sheet with a south pole on the back of it, and they aggregated in the iron 57. That's the analog of the paramagnetic oxygen dissolved in the water. They aggregated these monopoles of two different types, which bind themselves to the nucleus for about 2 days, it would seem, the same length of time that these little beauties live for. Maybe that's just the time that they're stable before they kind of reach equilibrium in the environment. Okay, and so you have two different systems here which are analogs. But what you are seeing here, I have a different thing here so I can actually show this, is what I was talking about with that image I took in Egypt of the ankhs joining together. And I was saying that the ankh represents breath, like, and it's like this. You've got two, these would be souths coming together. So let's say what you're seeing here on the right here are two souths, okay? That is to say the beam is the strong beam is a south. And let's show you here. So that is like a cluster like that. Now, you could imagine that if you have, let's say, a north and a south joining like that, it can't really do much. It's just bound like that, okay? Now, maybe it can link off that way and link off that way. It can do that with, for instance, a bunch like that. It could do that, right? So that's one way it could cluster. But I think it's easier, you can imagine, if you have a node of like south beam ones with the soft north, and they cluster and they can maybe form a closed loop. In which case, there's a flux loop there, and that would be a torus, wouldn't it? So, you know, you could get a whole bunch of those. And the other one you've got here is kind of like this. It's kind of probably like that, okay? And there's like a mesh of them. And what you're seeing coming out of, sorry, I'm not showing you, am I? This one here. Here. What you are seeing is it's kind of like coming out like that, okay? All right? And that can come around on the surface and you get maybe the loops between them, okay? I believe, and I'm going to state this now, that this kind of structure on the surface of, say, I don't know, a Tesla globe, you know, plasma ball. They are monopoles that are bound onto the surface and they put out their monopole beam. And I think probably most of the time, because of the potential, it might be of mostly one type. And that's why they kind of arrange themselves. And it's not necessarily that they are pushing electrons out to the outside of the plasma globe. It's that they are pulling them in. Okay? Different way to think about it. Okay, so let me see what I want to say here. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is a little bit more about this structure. And we are going to focus on this ring here. Okay? Now, I believe one's going to be a maker and one's going to be a breaker. The maker has to slowly build stuff from the environment. Okay? Slowly build stuff from the environment. So it's sucking life to keep itself sustained from the environment. And the breaker basically pulls it apart very quickly and dumps it back into the resource. So, and this is the passage of life. Okay. So, what is the so-called circle of life? I have my notes here, I guess. What is the circle of life? So my notes here, I've got it's from I Love Languages. What does the circle of life mean in English? So I will share all these references afterwards. But it is saying that the circle of life, in philosophy, the circle of life is the concept that says we begin at the end and end at the beginning. Is that what we're seeing? Is that what we're seeing? Are we here? Are we beginning at the end? Beginning at the end and ending at the beginning. All right. Oh, look at what you've seen down here. This is the lampshade. This is the lampshade from Nikola Tesla's photo that we talked about last week. Remember, I said I believe that the angle was deliberate, going downhill. Look what we see here, going downhill. Okay, this is above this one. This is above this one. Okay, This is coming out. Something's coming out of here. And we've shown this in the very first experiments we looked at in Lion. Material's coming out if it's rotating one way and it's going in. Maybe I can find that so you know what I'm talking about. Hi, Stephen. Great to have you here. Hi, Rare Condition. Great to have you here, Anne Neanderthal. Hi, John Weir. So, let me see if I can find that quickly. I'm going to do that, so just bear with me a minute. So yeah, more on the circle of life whilst I'm on that topic. The circle of life actually, apparently, according to this reference, and I may be wrong, this reference may be wrong, but just proviso, all the links will be shared. Originally seen in the funerary text inside King Tutankhamun's tomb, it has since become an important symbol in many cultures. The circle of life symbolizes two opposites, life and death. Now, some people say this is reference to words from the Bible, James 3:6. And the key phrase is course of nature. And it says, therewith bless we God, even with the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. And then in a different version, with the tongue we praise our Lord the Father, and with with it we curse men, who have been made in God's likeness. The tongue also, that's actually 9. So it's from 6, James 3:6. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole person, sets the whole course of his life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Okay? So his whole course of his life and is set on fire by hell. But basically, these two parts of James 3:6 and 9. One talks about effectively the precursor to circle of life, course of nature, and the other one talks about the fact that man is made in God's likeness. And so I refer to the comment that I put on my blog, which is from the Temple of Apollo at Delphi. Now, note when I'm talking about these things, these are all things that were carved by masons. Okay? Not Freemasons, these were masons back then, right? Know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and God. I think probably last week we may have shown that you can know yourself, and once you do, when you know exactly how we're made, you not only understand God, you also, how he manifests, or it manifests, or the ontological will manifests. But you also know how the universe is constructed, essentially. And I think those are very poignant words. Now, with knowing, let's say, that King Tut was someone whose tomb had this concept of the circle of life found in it first. This must have been something that was discussed within Egyptian philosophy. And so I just thought, well, okay, if it's in their philosophy and this is part of their technology, and the Coptic Christians, learnt from that, then perhaps King's Tut face is a good match for the structure we've been looking at. So just bear with me. I think we might find that it is. Give me a sec. Okay. Give me a second. Very nearly there. on this. I've got some really nice surprises for you today. Oh dear, it just is so easy now. So, for those that want to screen grab it, now's your chance. Yeah. There we go. This is our structure. Okay. And just to bring the yin-yang in for the sake of it right now, that's our yin-yang. Okay. And change the opacity there so you can see it a little bit closer. That is our yin-yang. Okay, I'm going to turn the yin-yang off. And I'm going to bring in King Tut's face. Now, bearing in mind, it's not necessarily directly straight on. It's not the best image. And it is also dependent on the perspective. Okay, but here it is. So, like with all of the other images, the inside of the nostrils, where the breath goes up, goes through the Sothic triangle shape. The lip is 100% located in exactly the place it needs to be. Likewise, the tear ducts are on the inside of the vortex structure. The outer part of the iris, in both cases, a little bit off on that side, is located there. The outer part of the central vortex structure, where most of the action occurs, lines up with the eyebrows. And other than probably perspective, the marks on the headdress essentially line up with the outside of the vortex structure. And then you have the beam coming down that we have in our structure down here. This one here coming down there, which is on his kind of like chin beardy type thing. Okay. So it is an extremely good likeness. Now, it does not surprise me then that someone trying to seek beauty through potentially, I'm not saying that this has happened, but I suspect it might have done, beauty, might have used this template either deliberately or inadvertently to achieve beauty. So I'm going to give you an example of someone who looks fairly attractive. I think that's one of her selling points. And she's been in the news a lot recently. But look how similar she is to King Tut. This is the North Korean escapee, Yeonmi Park. This is King Tut. And this is Yeonmi Park. She's gone to the length of having the eyebrows basically identical. It's quite spectacular, really. Now, whilst we are here, I did a dig about and I found a medieval, maybe, sculpture in France. This would have been done by masons. And I really think that they nailed it on this one, really. I have the full image and I will share the link to it. In fact, I need to buy the image for the work that I will put out on this eventually. But like I say, this is on, I think it's on a sarcophagus in France. And they clearly knew what they were doing, because that's what they were doing. Now, the central part of this is the same diameter as one of these big circles. But they exactly nailed these three inner bits with the smaller circle here. One for the mouth and one for the eyes and the central part. And another random one here. This is a medieval document. No surprise. No surprise at all. And it's got our noon here. And these are the lunar cycles. And interestingly, on this one, it actually has a compass pointing in at this point and a compass pointing in at this point. Maybe can we learn something from that? I don't know. Maybe we can. Compass pointing in. I'll take out the construction lines here. Okay. Compass pointing in, compass pointing in. Okay. This is not a mystery. This is not a mystery, but it probably is derived from mysticism, Oriental knowledge, all kinds of things that have been passed down the ages. Okay, so I'm going to read you a couple of things from the references that I gave the other day, which are on this theosophy. I have never read a single thing about theosophy ever. It just happened to turn up during my research this week, and you know, you got to sometimes go with the flow, haven't you? I genuinely do like go with the flow. So this is the American Theosophical Society here. Explore religion, philosophy, science, the arts. Okay. Some symbology there that you just saw in our image here. Look at these moons going round from this medieval thing, and look at this. Very, very similar, isn't it? Okay. Very similar. Okay. And down here it says something that, who wouldn't want this? Like, it's like our mission to encourage open-minded inquiry into world religions, philosophy, science, and the arts, in order to understand the wisdom of the ages, respect the unity of all life, and help people explore spiritual self-transformation. And if you haven't seen some of their artwork, well, you know, you got Jewish symbols, you've got Egyptian symbols, or Coptic Christian symbols, you've got Hindu symbols, you've got more Hindu symbols, and you got the snake eating its tail, right? And it's talking about truth here, higher truth. There is no religion. You know, I'm not sure I agree exactly with what it's saying here. You know, there is religions like, I don't know, global climate change and, I don't know, more recent religions. But, you know, I think this is a good message here. And I think it comes from a Masonic viewpoint. It comes from a Masonic viewpoint. And I'm going to pull that up now. And it was in one of the theosophical essays that I referred to. And it's referring to the 5th grade of the African Bauer-Haren system. And this is namely the master of the Egyptian secrets. The Eletopholite, or friend of truth. So this is the friend of truth. And this is given the 8th grade by Rogan in something else. So this is a Masonic order in Africa, probably around the time where we've seen some of the sculptures that I showed you. But this is a long time ago. And I read this the other day, about 3 or 4 days ago, and I thought, well, this is kind of exactly how I tried to do my research. It's basically in a nutshell. But this is what you were striving for as a Mason. The details of this system will be of interest to students. This is the author of this paper, as it throws some light upon the older association, of which very little is told. They are given by Kundman as follows. So these are what you basically have to adhere to as a Mason who is a master of the Egyptian secrets. Let truth be the sole aim of your understanding and of your will. Consider nothing true, consider nothing false, if you are not convinced about it by adequate reasons. Now, I'm going to step aside here. For many years, people might have wondered, why didn't you just come out and tell us what Ode is? It's like, it's different when I'm convinced of something, but I had to have the truth so that it was self-evident. It could only be true. And I regularly say, I'm not sure about this, I might be wrong. You need to kind of like, and we'll iterate to the truth. My focus is on the truth. But when you are hitting it on the head every time, and whether you're looking forward in time, you're getting the data from experiments, or you're looking backward in time through philosophy or science or architecture or art, then you must be getting close to the truth, unless everyone for all time was wrong. I'll go back to the how you should live under this Masonic order. Be satisfied with this, that you know and love the truth. Seek to impart it, that is, to make it known and agreeable to your fellow citizens. He who buries his experience buries a thing which has been committed to his care for furtherance of the glory of the highest, and he thus diverts its use from humanity, which might have profited therefrom. Now, on that note, I'm going to say that Dan Easton, spoke on our behalf to David Pantone, Paul Pantone's son, and they have agreed that they will come on and they will share for the first time things that were not disclosed publicly about the Geet reactor. This is in the spirit of what I've just read from this ancient African Masonic order. Okay? With a view to not losing that information and for it to deliver what it's meant to have delivered, the purpose of why Paul Pantone discovered that. Okay? And I would ask anyone who's interested this time next week to be able to be a part of a live Zoom call. If you're working in this effort with the Geet or not, it doesn't matter. But if you've got your questions, get them ready. I know our collaborating researchers have got a lot of questions already, but if you're involved, this is in the spirit of what I'm talking about here, okay? So if you get, basically, it's arguing that if you happen to learn something, it's been given to you for a reason. It hasn't been given for you to die with it. You're meant to give it out. I'll go on. Do not deny your love and help to those who know the truth and are seeking it themselves, or who are honestly trying to defend it. It would be too disgraceful and contrary to the actual vocation of the friend of truth if you were to deny protection and defence to those who object is one with yours. Sorry, to those whose object is one with yours. Never contradict a truth when you see that you are being overborne by others whose insight is more keen than yours. Never contradict a truth when you see that you are being overborne by others whose insight is more keen than yours. A friend of truth would be unworthy of his name if he undertook to combat the truth out of pride or conceit, or from any other reasonable cause. Be pitiful with those who either are ignorant of the truth or have incorrect perceptions of it. Instruct them without bitterness, and seek to bring them into the right way solely by the strength of your arguments, and by no other way. You would disgrace the truth and make it appear suspicious if you were to fight for it and defend it with any other weapons but those which reason gives into your hand. I encourage you to read that African Master of the Egyptian Secrets Masonic learning. I can honestly say I've tried to live to that, and I'm not a Mason. That is literally how I try and do things. If someone doesn't know what I think is the truth, I will do my level best to try and explain it to them within my capacity. If I know something that I have somehow been gifted, whether it's from my own insight or from third parties, or I've just seen what other people have tried to say through their own imagery from the past, then I will try and share that. What is the point of us wasting our time just to keep little secrets for ourselves? Either we're all on this little blue globe in the cosmos together and it actually matters, or we just got our egos and we want to like carve out a little niche whilst we're alive for a few years and leave everyone else standing. No, if you learn something, it's kind of like your duty to try and see if it's true, and if it's true, add it into the collective truth. That's kind of how I feel. So I thought that was actually from the section 3 of that. And then there's something else here. Now, when you see these documentaries, like sort of like, I don't know, apocalypse, like these things, like these people died and we don't know why. It could have been an earthquake, it could have been an airburst, it could have been a flood, it could have been blah blah blah, right? Like food, famine, all the things we're trying to see that it looks like they're trying to do to us now, right? It's like they paint these like maps of where the so-called empire was, of a particular empire. And what I find completely absurd about these things is the kind of suggestion that like nothing happened outside of this during the time, or it kind of gives you a suggestion that there was a hard boundary and you got to the end of the empire and no one did anything at that boundary. That's just not true. The Malayalis will tell you from India, there are Malayali tests in South America. The Chinese would say that they discovered America before, Christopher Columbus. Of course, Native American, they don't tend not to look like Europeans, right? And the Arabic nations were trading with southern India and thousands of years ago, and southern India was trading with China thousands of years ago. The evidence is there in the archaeological record and in things that they actually have in their temples that were dumped in their treasure hoards, right? So the idea that when these people were carving these symbols that were so important that they didn't know about concepts and mysticism and technologies from the East, they would have done. Especially the high-level traders that were doing all this interchange. It would be like, I really do like the gold, but if you've got any little secrets of how to do X, Y, and Z, I want something, more than just a thing to carry back with me. They would have been transferring this information all around the world. So by the time of the Coptic Christians, the refinement there would have been very good in terms of understanding. But what this document actually says here, in a different part, it says, where is it? He says, in the time of the Jews, this is from section 2, in the time of the Jews, they had made use of the Essenes, in which sect Jesus was brought up and had spent the greater part of his life. Having been instructed by him in a more perfect knowledge of the holy things, they had, amidst persecution, taught in silence that which had been committed to their keeping. Right, so these guys had a really good idea how these things occurred, and they taught Jesus, and Jesus then corrected it. It says, at the period of the Saracens and the Crusades, they were so greatly oppressed that they must ultimately have sought protection from without. As fate would have it, 7 of them, Syriac Christians, pursued by unbelievers near Bastrum, were rescued by the Knights Templars and afterwards taken under their protection. When they had lived there for a certain time, they begged permission to dwell with the Canaans and the prebendaries of Jerusalem. And as the life there led agreed better with their own inclinations and habits. This was according to them, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Thus, the secret knowledge, which was continually being added to, lived on in the very heart of the Order of the Knights Templar till its abolition. The clergy were dispersed with the persecution that ensued, but as the secular arm did not touch them, as it did the Knights, they managed to rescue many of the secret writings, and when the Knights Templar sought refuge in Scotland, they founded a chapter at Aberdeen, the first prior of which was Petrus and Bononia. The science was disseminated from this place, but very cautiously, first to Italy and then to the extreme north, Sweden and Russia, and France. In Italy, Abbot Severin had been the guardian of the true science. So, I think what it says in this document is basically, if you look at Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and the Euphrates, where so-called the first dwellings, the settled places were. This was, I think, 14,000 years before Christ, I think, or 14,000 years ago, something like that. They actually had settlements. I'm not talking about the Akkadian culture. There had settlements at least, I think, 14,000 years ago. So this is kind of the age of this, possibly, of this ceramic light. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert in this. If I get this wrong, we can fix it later. Okay. But I'm trying to do the best I can. If they had a knowledge of the science, it is argued by this document that there was pagan science as well. And a part of my research in 2021 was to come face to face with some of this research, because I was utterly convinced it is explicitly showing the technology, and it's something that has never been adequately explained. Not even close to being explained. You know, a lot of these sites, they just list what they can see on the image and just anthropomorphize it into something that's very common, that people can go, oh yeah, that's what it is, right? And so apparently what happened is Jesus took the pagan knowledge and the Egyptian knowledge and kind of merged them into a more pure understanding. And they argue that maybe Jesus was born again and blah, 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 and that he brought with him the God knowledge, and, you know, born of God, definitely part of his kingdom. So that became the core secret knowledge. And I think the symbols in that stele absolutely categorically clear that up. That is exactly what happened. And in the stele, that I think is the world's most important scientific document that I referred to last week. But there's one other section I want to look at before I move forward from that work. And I think this is absolutely critical. And it is the Levitical doctrines. God is all that exists. Every part of all that exists is part of God, but is not God. So it's only when you are looking at everything that you are seeing God. But it's everything. Like, everything that's in God is part of God, but it's not God. Everything is God. So, going on. Immutable in his essence, God is mutable in his parts, which, after having existed under the laws of certain combinations, more or less complex, live again under the laws of fresh combinations. All is increate. God being supremely intelligent, every one of the parts which compose him is endowed with a portion of his intelligence, in virtue of its destiny, whence it follows that there is an infinite gradation of intelligences resulting from an infinity of different compounds, the union of which forms the entirety of the worlds. This entirety is the great all, or God, who alone has the power to modify, change, and govern all these orders of intelligences, according to the eternal and immutable laws of an infinite justice and goodness. God, infinite being, is composed of three powers: the Father, or being, the Son, or action, the Spirit, or mind, proceeding from the power of the Father and the Son. These three powers form a trinity, a power infinite, unique and individual. There is but one only true religion, that which acknowledges one only God, eternal, filling the infinity of all time and space. And then this particular phrase is, I think, very special. The order of nature is immutable. Therefore, all doctrines that anyone would attempt to build upon a change of these laws would be founded only in error. I'll say that again. The order of nature is immutable. Therefore, all doctrines that anyone would attempt to build upon a change of these laws would be founded only in error. What am I believing that it's saying there? I'm saying that there is only one way that the universe works. It doesn't matter if you have an opinion that says it works a different way. It doesn't matter if you really believe that you've got a model that works. It might work for a lot of different things, but if it isn't the way it actually works, it's not going to allow you to do certain things. It will not explain the things. But I believe we're getting close to lifting that veil. We're looking back into the past and seeing what, is nature. And nature is God. All of nature, everything, the stars, the heavens, the above and below, everything is God. And it works in one way. It works in one way. Eternal life is the power with which every being is endowed, of living in his own life and acquiring an infinity of modifications by combining himself unceasingly with other beings, according to what is ordained by the eternal laws of the wisdom, the justice and the infinite goodness of the supreme intelligence. According to this system of modification of matter, it is natural to concede that all parts have the right and thought and free will. All parts have the right of thought and free will, and therefore the power of merit and demerit. Hence, there is no longer anything of what is called inorganic matter. If, however, any must be admitted, where is the limit, for instance, among mineral, vegetable, and animal substances? Okay, so I think that's what that's saying is basically everything has this ability to have this consciousness of God or connection to it. And everything is a little consciousness unit. These things have already been written a very, very long time ago. A lot of people have tried to claim them for themselves, but these things have been written a very, very long time ago. Okay. I don't know whether I want to read any more of that. I want to get back to explaining the imagery. So if you give me a second, I will change my view here. So I'm going to share an image that was shared with me. This is another piece of Coptic art from the Cairo Museum. And whilst I go to the little boys' room, see what you think you see in this image. I don't think the chat's frozen, Paul. I can see you, and welcome. So when you look through those documents on that review of the Templars and the Masonry and so on, and its relationship to Christianity and so forth, and pre-Christianity, continually you are seeing references to these people as doing alchemy. It is not surprising to me why they do not want to admit the possibility of transmutation. Even the recent work that's been funded by the Department of Energy to the tune of something like 10 million across America, they seem to be focused on this kind of normal nuclear process. It is not that. I read that paper from 1992. Yes, that's not 10 years, that's not 20 years, that's 30 years ago. And they are telling you to your face, this is not normal nuclear reactions. So that money largely will be wasted. It will be wasted. We have to accept the truth. Now, what are you seeing in that image? You are seeing the heart shapes that I have shown you many, many, many times. You are seeing something that captures energy slowly, right? On one side, that's the leaf, I presume, of a plant. I don't know whether it looks like a vine leaf. It doesn't particularly look like a vine leaf, but something. It's a leaf of a plant. And the energy is going round, whatever, it's going into the hole. But on the other side, you have the grapes or the seeds or whatever they are. And so this is making something, and this is extracting energy from something. Yeah? And it's in the shape of the structure that these things make. I mean, it's just like, how many times does it have to appear? And I literally only saw that image, when was it? You know, day before yesterday. This is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. Heart, 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 right? One side's different from the other, but they're both the same kind of thing, right? That is what we're seeing here. Moreover, this is in a matrix, like a blotch patch. Remember what we saw on the Vega Valley Plateau. We saw a patch where you had lines of green structures and lines of red structures, meaning you had intense magnetic alignment of the nuclei, so that when light interacted, it polarized the light one way and it polarized the light the other way. There was no form that you could see under the SEM. The SEM just showed copper oxide, right, with a little bit of zinc, right? But under optical light, either using the Dynalight Edge or the Sony A Alpha 1, you saw red, 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 and you saw green, green. Oh, sorry, green. I should be rotating the other way. Green, green, so on. I believe that is what you are seeing. And I believe that whoever carved this knew exactly why they were carving it. Okay, so it is the shape of the grape leaf. Okay, so there we go. So it is the slow capturer of the energy from the environment. And I've already told you that you can get water, put the south pole of a magnet, 0.4 Tesla magnets underneath, capture these things from the environment into oxygen, and you can then release them as clusters and so on. So, you know, this is it. Oh, yeah. Do love my vine leaves. They are definitely gets me salivating. Love my vine leaves. So, just whilst we're here, let's go and have a look at some of these other images. We'll go through them. What do we got? Right, okay. So, straight off, we got a vortex one way and a vortex. Is that the vortex another way? I don't know. Vortex that way, vortex that way. Vortex that way, vortex that way. Yeah, kind of. So that's one with the cross in the middle. What's next? What's next? This one, well, we've got our flower with our cross in the middle. Not so interesting, that one. What do we got here? Aha, okay. So we have our braids. Okay, so we got, is it 1 up there, 2, is it 3? This is similar to the structure that we got in the diamond braided structure that came out of the cluster. We have the vortex center here and the vortex center here with the material coming through the middle. And some suggestion of birds, I guess. Other people will know exactly what they're looking at a bit more than I will. Not sure I know what that's about. We got our pillars here and this triangle thing. Not so interesting there. Don't know. Okay, so here's a classic Coptic. We got our alpha and omega here. Okay. I would say that this is later because they're not quite sure whether we should have capital letters or lowercase letters. I guess maybe these are vine leaves as well. I don't know. Yeah, not so interesting on that one. This one's quite nice. It's got the circle of life. It's not going all the way round here. It's coming from the center up there and going back down to the core here. So this may be pulling the material in. Like I say, the older these carvings get, the more they get away from the truth. That's that one. Okay, so I think that's what we have there. The most interesting of these images here was, I guess, this one and this one. This one because we just see these hearts everywhere in the experiments. And we also see the right and left rotation on the Vega Valley floodplain. Okay. Right. Let me see what I want to show you next. Nearly there. So, yes, again, to reiterate, the Tesla photo here, where we had the flower of life with the torus going around and the Maltese cross putting the material into the center. This is the Visa Capices. This is the area of safety, I believe, above, where life can thrive and the energy is right for it. This is our behind and in front, slightly going downhill. And here is our flux loop. And I said it comes from here and round to here, comes from here and round to here. And in the diagram here, we have this outie and the innie. And I'm trying to remember to get the outie and innie from the Lion reactors in a second. In fact, let me go and dig that up right now so I can find what you can believe me when I'm talking about it. Let me see. Okay, so this will do. So remember, 2 is the minimum. It doesn't have to be 2, but 2 is the minimum. So this was way back when, in 2017. So here you've got the 2 spots of the condensed matter in the center. This is rotating around this way with maybe our structure here and our structure here just outside of this, and it's pulling material in, and it's sucking material in, so you get 2 holes. Okay. Over here on the left, we have 3 around it. So this is not like the ones where this is more like a structure like the ones on the Coptic stones. This has got 3 around it, and it's got a dome. But this is rotating clockwise, and material's going into it. And this is rotating anti-clockwise, and it's got a dome. So material is being sucked from inside and producing a dome. Okay. So I also showed like a 4-point like swastika type structure here, and this is a 5.1, and this has the yin yangs around it. You can see it here, there. You got the yin yangs around that. This is just by looking at different so-called elements in there. And in this work by Henk Uren as well, we showed this is the 2 structure, and you see this spiral going in. Okay, and so that's a 2 structure. We have 3 structures here. These are 1 3 structure. We have 4 structures, 5 structures. This one's a 6 structure. This one I think is an 8 or something, and we talked about those. Okay, so yeah. That's basically what I'm talking about here, and this is the same as galaxies, and we talked about this. Now I will line this up with a galaxy in a different experiment, and I will do it with some of Mars, I guess, so that it will be very, very clear that this is what's going on at all scales. Okay. And at the very least, you can see that this is the Paisleys, and the Paisley is that thing by Bogdanovich. It's spinning around here, and it's got these little tails. Okay. The Lion reactor was clearly completely related. So this is replete with these things. So here we go again. Okay. So why am I talking about that? I'm talking about that because we have this flux going between here. And so if we line this up here with the center line here, and we line this up with the center line here, this is the flux on one half of the cycle. The cycle behind, which comes round to the beginning, is out of view. This is in life. This is in the picture. It is in this picture, right? But there's a bit of that lampshade you don't know is actually there. It's effectively, for want of a better word, dead. It's just not there, right? So that is the bit that's behind, between the omega and the alpha. Yeah. So this is where it gets a little bit special, because you have 2 symbols in here. And remember what I was saying is that civilization didn't stop at the end of an empire. Like, you didn't get to like the end of the Akkadian Empire and say, "Look, you're not Akkadian, I'm not going to sell you any grain, and I'm not going to buy any gold off you," or whatever. No, it was a continuous flux of products going all the way round from China, across the Silk Road, through Syria, and into and onto Europe, and up into Northern Europe. Okay. So we have 2 symbols here, chi and rho. Chi and rho. And chi sounds exactly like chi from, China. Okay. And I've told you that the Chinese were trading with the Malayalis, and the Malayalis were trading with the Arabs, right? Therefore, there was an information flux between China all the way through to the Akkadian culture, okay, and to the Assyrians and so forth, those that came before, and to the people that Jesus hung out with for most of his life. And so what is chi? Well, it's on this reference here, EN Wiktionary, wiki.chi, and EN Wikipedia.org chi. And so uppercase chi and lowercase chi is the 22nd letter of the Greek alphabet. Numerical value of the letter is 600. Okay. The uppercase letter chi, X, is commonly used to abbreviate the name of Christ, such as in Xmas. And this makes me feel better, because for years I used to think when I'm using the term Xmas, I'm kind of cutting Christ out, but actually no, it is Christ anyway. The lowercase chi is used to represent chi distribution in statistics, magnetic susceptibility in physics. Now, the people that were doing the science were the kind of people that might have been Masons, or they might have been at that kind of level at those times across the various parts of the world where they were talking at high levels about things. Okay? And so the fact that they chose this for magnetic susceptibility is not a surprise. It probably has more meaning than you can probably think immediately about it. But from philosophy type of view, a life force in traditional Chinese philosophy, culture, medicine, etc., related to but not limited to breath and circulation. So it's, that bit in the Ankh, the symbol is meaning like breath, which, you can't really live long without breathing, let's face it. And so life force, chi, life force, or from this reference, energy force. So we're looking here is that the chi is the life force, okay? So what is rho? Rho, uppercase rho and lowercase rho, is the 17th letter of the Greek alphabet. The letter rho came from the Phoenician letter, whatever that is in Phoenician, meaning head. So this is Christ, head. Christ, head. The halo, Christ, head. The halo on the angel, Christ, head. Jesus, Christ. Christ is this energy thing, right? The Phoenicians changed the Egyptian rho and renamed it, blah, blah, blah. But the ancient Greeks didn't make any changes. They just renamed it rho. So the symbol's the same. They just called it rho, okay? The Greek letter rho is used to stand for density or resistivity in physics. So we have two, magnetic susceptibility and life force. So this, I'm saying, is the magnetic core. This is the life force or the energy flux. And this is the density or the head. So Christ, head, energy density, life force density. The life force density going through the center of here is at its maximum. More on rho. Rho, your boat gently down the stream. No. Rho is a very interesting letter, which, like all the other letters of the Greek alphabet, signals and describes some peculiarities of nature. That is new to me. Rho is a very interesting letter, which, like all the other letters of the Greek alphabet, signals and describes some peculiarities of nature. And the sound it produces, thus the rho, represents the sound of flowing water down the stream gently as you go. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And is definitely included in water-related words. Flow, stream, fluid. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream in the fluid of the life force that has density in the center. However, the rho in its form shows the movement and energy of all things. Okay. However, the rho in its form shows the movement and energy of all things. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, this guy on Quora gives a reference to Plato in this reference here. And he says, I assume this is Plato. I may be wrong. People can call me on it. I'm trying to do the best I can. In the first place, then, in my opinion, the letter rho serves as a means of phenomenologically rendering every movement. The letter rho seemed to be a suitable medium for the denominator to express every movement, because it seems to have the meaning of a torsion and exists in this flow, and as a flow, through the letter rho, the movement imitates. Torsion. So, we have life force density torsion. Life force density torsion. Life force density torsion. Pretty cool, huh? It's not an accident. It's a scientific document. Hi, Kim, my love. Hi, Kim. Thank you for joining. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Stephen B. Halls. Yeah. Stephen B. Halls is saying boat oars in symbolism, I think they are flux lines. Victor Schauberger is saying the same thing. He's saying what he was using the philosophy of Thales and Anaximander, who predated him by a couple of millennia. Hi, Son Overbook. Am I dropping audio? Is that right? Can anyone else? Son of Overbook saying I'm dropping audio. I'm recording it locally if there's a problem. I don't know. Okay, so Chi Rho. Chi Rho. Our angel of death and our angel of life. Death on the left. Omega. Life on the right. Alpha. Alpha and Omega. They together create the life force. So if we go back to our imagery from our last presentation, give me a second. So this is the Christ Center. I have no shadow of a doubt that that is accurate and precise. And someone sent me a PDF today, and I'm going to share it with you now. And I have to try and give him credit, so let me try and do that. Give me a second. So this is from Tony Gibboni. Great name, I love it. Tony Gibboni. And he likes to take religious structures and stuff and decode them using phi ratio. And he did this, and it's available on the blog. And he broke down this diagram here. And there's a lot of lines there, so you can go and look at this in your own time. But the width-height ratio of the dimensions is 1/2. The phi ratios derived from total width are in blue. And the phi ratios derived from total height are in red. So he's saying that the bottom edge of the middle cross is here. The center mark of left and middle circles are here. But he notes that at the phi ratio offset, the right-hand one, okay, is not centered with the left-hand one. So even in this diagram, this one is above this one. This is absolutely, in my view, totally deliberate. In every other respect, it would appear that you have phi ratios going through the whole thing. So I'll put the direct link to this on the blog review of O'Day's Circle of Life. Okay. So thank you there to Tony Giboni. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name exactly as I should. Now, this stele here, you can see on the British Museum, it has this wonderful like scaling imagery here, which you can zoom in. You can see here it was acquired in Egypt 1905, I think. So this wouldn't have been in Egypt when Tesla visited in the late 1890s or early 1890s. However, I'm pretty sure that people like Tesla, and assuming that he had some means other than pure guesswork of learning of the knowledge, I think that he would have learnt of these kind of carvings. Okay. I think that's a pretty darn special piece of work. Now, what I'm saying therefore is it would appear that very deliberately, and you will find this across the ancient world, right? I believe that Christianity is being snuffed out right now globally for this reason, and I'm going to state it now. I believe they are trying to kill Christianity because if you look into Christian origins, you will see this. And if you see this and this and this, and you think about this and you think about this, and you understand that it is the circle of life, you will realize that God is omnipotent, is everywhere, is immutable, but everything contains a bit of God. I kind of think that the bit of God is the distance between these things. The amount of consciousness is the distance between these things, right? So you could argue that some Galapagos tortoises are really, really conscious, but maybe they don't have the random access memory. I don't know. Just riffing. This really is how it works. And the other artwork that we shared last week is really on another level in terms of understanding this and also the fractal part of it. And sorry, not that, this there, on another level. You'll notice actually that I slightly had to rotate this to line these up into the center, and I didn't realize that they weren't perfectly in line. So thank you for that correction by the third party we just discussed. Okay. Now, there's a lot of talk by Egyptologists, that, for instance, the Sphinx isn't older than, the Cheops pyramid or whatever it is. It's certainly not as old as other people are talking about. And I think probably the best way to get the Egyptians to consider it being older than what they currently say it is to say, well, it wasn't the Egyptians that learned this technology first. And I said we would return to New Grange, and I'm going to do that now. Here, this is one of the curbstones around New Grange, okay? And it's a bang-on dead ringer. It's the only photo I could get, really, which wasn't all in shadow and low quality. So I would like to go to New Grange and take Uber photos if someone's in Ireland and can go up from Dublin and take a day and get some really nice photos. But it's bang on the money here, I believe. It's interesting because they did this kind of like elongated thing to mark the eyes, and they've got these three spots to kind of mark the central spot and the ratios between the inside and outside here. I can only confirm that, like I say, when I get a better image. So, where are we? I'm going to pull up something here. So Newgrange, we spoke about how the okay, I'm gonna talk about the Chaldeans in a minute, which are Aramaic-speaking people who became the Eastern Rite Catholics, and they have a history that spans more than 5,500 years, dating back to Mesopotamia. But we've got the settlements in Mesopotamia around about 14,000 years ago, about the time potentially that those lanterns came from. Okay, but Newgrange is 5,220 years ago. Okay, and the Egyptologists claim that the Cheops pyramid is 4,600 years ago. So, if they want to get full credit, you know, for this dude knowing the ratios, you know, they kind of have to explain why people many hundreds of years before in Ireland, Celtic people, knew what this was. How do they know well before the Egyptians? Okay? How did they know before the Egyptians? Right. Now, one thing we talked about last week, this is a bit funny, is after I gave my presentation about the most important scientific document on Earth, someone sent me the picture of number 10. But it's not number 10, it's 10. But it's very specifically a little bit more interesting than just straight 10, because O has an angle of 37 degrees. And no one knows why that is, right? No one knows why 37 degrees is there. Well, can I tell you something a little bit crazy? A little bit woo-woo. And do I have it here? I don't even think I made a slide. I don't think I made a slide. Right, I got it on my phone. I'll tell you why. And I'll give the reference, of course. I'll have to go through the video and put the reference out to you. Let me just find this. Why? The number 37. The symbolism, according to R. Alendi, is the individual evolution in the cosmic organization. Well, it all sounds a little bit spiritual and stuff 300 years ago, doesn't it, for number 10, Downing Street. But check out this. Check out this. I'm going to bring up the image so you can have it in the background. This is a little bit special, my friends. And it starts to get a bit weird. It's all demystifying. It's all demystifying. So, this is what we're looking at here. Okay. So we're looking at this 10, and according to Wikipedia, for some reason the O's a bit weird and it's like at 37 degrees. Okay. And here it says, according to the fathers of the church, 37 is a symbol of the Christ. It is the symbol of the alive word of God. To this number is thus allotted a certain dignity. And then it goes on. According to the antique science of the Chaldeans, now, who are the Chaldeans? I told you. They are an Aramaic-speaking peoples that came out of Mesopotamia 5,500 years ago, and they became the Eastern Rite Catholics, the Chaldeans. These are kind of in the same area of the people that would have been teaching Jesus, or rather Jesus then took their learning and the Egyptian learning and the pagan learning and synthesized that into a very good understanding, either through knowing it implicitly or working it out. You can take your pick. According to the antique science of the Chaldeans, the number 37 symbolizes the force, the capacity, and the power. So, this 37-degree angle on here, this says one Christ. This is the spoken symbol of the alive God. And it is also the force and the capacity and the power. And that is in the center of this structure, which is a clone of the most important scientific document on Earth. Now, there's something also very, very interesting about the number 37. If you take 3, 3, and 3, and you add them together, you get 9. But if you times 9 by 37, you get 333. Now, if you take 6 plus 6 plus 6, and you add them together, and you get 18, and you multiply that by 37, you get 666. And if you get 9, and you get 9, and you 9, you add them together, you get 999. What is it? Yeah, you get 27. And you times 27 by 37, you get 999. Yes, I do call this science. I do call this science. 0. Yes, a 1 off and on and off, yes. I don't think they were too digital back then. I think there's much more connotation to this. They had 300 plus years to change this O for a 0. No, it's very specifically an O. It's also very specifically at that 37 degrees. One Christ. The power, as it says, the force and the capacity. All powerful. Right. Okay, so let me go here. So I explained about this diagram, and what I believe is going on here is the living, or the life, and this is very, very important what I'm going to say here. It explains an observation by Shakparanov. Okay? This is the living one. This is the death one. Okay? Right? Now, in both cases, they will create a light center. Okay? Because this is pulling energy apart. It will be light here, but also throwing it out here. This is pulling energy from over here and pulling it to here. It will be light. Okay? This is the light of life, and this is the light of death. Okay? This is the light of death. Okay? Why? Well, when it's pulling in and you are creating something alive, it lives for a period of time. But the death occurs very, very quickly. Now, Shakparanov noted that the luminous objects lasted for a very short period of time. But the zero albedo dark objects lasted for a long period of time. Days, in fact. Days. So, this is the living thing because it pulls from its environment for a long period of time. But if you have one that's a destroyer, i.e. it's captured matter here and it's turning it into something that is able to transmit over here and excite this matter over here and give it back to, let's say, for a better argument, the ether, then this is death of matter. This is a living thing living out its life, extracting from the environment. Chi. It's extracting chi from its environment. It's extracting chi through the structure that we've been talking about. It's extracting chi through this Sussex triangle, as shown here. It's extracting the chi here, as shown in the Coptic art. Not that one, not that one either. This one, extracting the chi from down here. Okay? So the living thing lives for a period of time, so does the bit that it's extracting from. Okay? The death one dies quickly. Very, very simple explanation for the experimentally observed data. Okay. So, now when you look at this diagram, and I call it a diagram, one can imagine that the vector here of this structure is pointing back, and it's slowly pulling energy in here to create the life here. Okay? And you can imagine that that's there right the way through, and this one has its vector pulling back this way. Okay? And as soon as you get in that vortex of death, it's a spiral down until the point that you are dead and your energy, your chi, is given back to the firmament. Okay? And this is what's happening when you are making and destroying matter in linear experiments. This is what happens when matter seems to disappear. And it can be projected to the far field, but maybe only in the form of energy, which you can't really access unless maybe you have another one of these. Which means you need a yin and a yang. You need a yin and yang because you have a breaker and a maker. You have to have both, okay? Now, if you've only got a maker, you might be able to extract energy from a distance, and I've shown you. I've shown you that you can cluster these things. Now, I'm going to load up the Shakparanov paper because there's another thing which you can see, which is showing this as well. These are very, very serious, top-of-the-game nuclear scientists. They're not joking when they're doing this work, okay? Here we go, the Shakparanov paper again, okay? What am I referring to? I am referring to this. Spherical plasmoid luminous thread. Luminous thread. Okay, so this here, it has a bright end here and a bright end here. And he describes later in the paper, these are two probably monopoles, okay? So what am I looking at there? I believe we are looking at something like this. Now, I don't have the long one here, but this is short enough to demonstrate. I've shown this before. What you've got there in that image, in my opinion, in my view, okay, is this. You've got one monopole over here and one monopole over here, right? Okay, and they've got a luminous thread between them, okay? That could be this filament that Rodionov is talking about. It could be that these things assemble the filaments and tear them apart and combine them into other things, okay? But there it is, there it is. That's our filament going between there. Okay? So, I've argued that you can have them joining together like this. Like that. And they're separated, but that is giving you what you're looking at kind of in these images. Okay? Like that. You got one here in sound using a liquid and whatever. You got these in your Vega experiments. And I will say that in some Vega experiments, we have noticed that in the flux loop, where you have them on the surface like that, okay, you actually see the division of the substructure as well. Okay, not just the main loop, you see the two, and it's at an angle. I'm going to get to that angle in a minute. I'm going to get to that angle. Right. So I've talked about here the Skara Brae here. So we're talking about something that is way, way before the Egyptians got, you know, obviously King Tut is, you know, I think he's nowhere near as old as the Cheops pyramid, even with the idea of how old the Cheops pyramid is according to the Egyptologists. But Scarborough, excuse me, is older than both of them. Okay, so, and to be fair, the pyramid is older than the Coptic art. Okay, all right. So, you will see this across the Scandinavian world. Now, I referred many moons ago, I shared one of my early slides from O'Day, and I was referring to this. Let me get it. And I was talking about the... have I got that there? No. The thunder god Preran. Okay? Because he has this. He has this. This is the thunder marks to protect from the thunder god Preran. But I would like you to also cast your eyes up to this, which is called the Ukko axe. It's a pre-Christian amulet that represents the Finnic deity. Okay, so what have we got there with that Finnic deity? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, all right. The Baltic tribes had a widespread cult of Thunderer Precernus, one of the main deities of the Baltic pantheon with Preran. This deity also shares common attributes in the form of an axe or a fiery four-pointed symbol. Blah, 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 blah. It's actually better in here. It says, it is likely that the purely Slavic god, Preran, replaced them for the Scandinavian Thor, also the Thunderer. Okay? Now, if we go on to what this symbol is here, the Ukko axe. Here is some detail about the Ukko axe. Ukko Vansara, or Ukko curves, is the symbol and magical weapon of the Finnish thunder god Ukko, similar to Thor's Mjolnir. I might be mullering these, I'm sorry. Ukko means hammer of Ukko. Similarly, Ukko means axe of Ukko. It was said that Ukko created lightning with Ukko. Ukko's hammer was probably originally a boat-shaped stone axe when the stools were blah, 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 blah. Stone axes, so-called thunderstones, were found in the ground, especially after drenching rains washed away dirt. They were believed to be weapons of Ukko. Stone heads of striking lightning. Shamans collected and held stone axes because they were believed to hold the power to both heal and damage. And as I told you before, they have this, equivalent in Indra in India and stuff, and they have all these different ones. But anyway, this is the image I want you to be interested in. Why am I asking about that? So I think probably these were iron, maybe, that was formed with lightning or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, these were the axes. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring up our diagram here. And I'm going to bring up our gaseous ones here. Where's our gaseous ones? Down here. Surfaces, gases. Gases, surfaces, not surfaces. Don't want the surfaces. I want the here. This is what I want. That one. And I don't want that. Okay, so here we've got probably, this is from Alien Scientist. Thank you, Alien Scientist. This is a Lord Kelvin type smoke ring going through the air with a laser cutting through it, so you can see highlights of where the fluid dynamics is going on. This is an easy experiment for someone to replicate if they wished to do so. Now, the interesting thing is here is the bearing in mind this is all to do with lightning bolts, protection from the gods, and blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm going to put here in the construction lines for the golden ratio, and that is somewhere here if I can find it here. So between this center point of the tangent of the two large circles up to and through the center point of the two circles that form the vesica Pisces, up through to the boundary here. That is the phi ratio here. That's the phi ratio. But look at this line here. Look at this line right there. Okay, that is what I want you to be looking at. But roughly where the G is. This is the Finnish Ukko Vasara. Okay, maybe you can't see it with that. Essentially, the mark lines up precisely with the phi ratio line. Okay. Moreover, the top of the Vasara lines up with the fluid dynamics of the structure itself. So this fluid dynamic here lines up with the structure. Okay. This is the same for the Scandinavian. So this, if I pull out, this is the Finnish Ukko-Vasara. I'm probably getting that wrong. This is Thor's hammer. And so Thor's hammer lines up with the intersection points here and here. It lines up with the radius on these structures. And it lines up, I'm not saying exactly because this is a very low res image that I've thrown in here. But largely the points here are in line with the Sussex triangle ratio. Okay. And here is the Icelandic Thor's hammer. And that again, if I, it does the same thing basically, except the inside here lines up with the Sussex triangle. This is centered, and it comes out to the boundary here. Okay. The Ukko-Vasara, this lightning structure, and remember, this is the structure of ball lightning. This is the structure of ball lightning. Okay, in the core, right? And so they are saying this is formed by lightning. They have some crazy stories, actually. Like, so if we go back here, is it here or is it this one? Is it this one? They've got one crazy story here. Look at this. It says, and this is prayer and also another type, blah, 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 blah. Slavic folk accounts the golden apple appears as a talisman of ultimate destruction. The golden apple. What are we looking at here? This is a spindle torus, which is called an apple. Okay. The golden apple appears as a talisman of ultimate destruction. An example from folk song of Montenegro with strong mythical elements relates. He grabbed 3 golden apples and threw them high into the sky. 3 lightning bolts burst from the sky. The first struck at 2 young grooms. The second struck Pasha on a brown horse. And the third struck 600 wedding guests. Not an eyewitness left. Not even to say how they died. It is highly unsurprising to me that this structure matches the exact high density layer of the flux here. And that it ends at the golden ratio section. It cannot be a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think this is a demonstration of an understanding of the technology. Now, I've done it with many different things, this angle here and and we got this here, and it's almost difficult to know what to do in terms of how many things I need to show you. But I'm going to pick another bit of Scandinavia, and I saw this many moons ago. This is Odin. It's his symbol. I'm going to take the flux out of here, and I'm going to put in the original lion cauliflower here. And I saw this a long time ago. So I'm going to take out the construction lines here. And this is Odin's stele. Again, another Scandinavian thing. And we have the spirals here. Okay? And that is at the center of the overall structure. With the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around the outside. And we know that this is 6. Okay? But this is right here, right there, that right there is what is on Tesla's floor, on his lamp. On his lamp, on the floor. If I can change that so we can see it properly. Where is it? Odin. This. Okay. This is on his lamp. Where is his lamp? Where's your lamp? Oh, I haven't got it in that image, have I? Let me get the other one. In the bottom of the lamp here. Okay. This is in the center of Odin's thing. So it is absolutely what that document is saying from the Theosophical note. It's referring to the fact that Jesus concatenated, aggregated, and explained the pagan science and the Mesopotamian derived science that the Egyptians also had, and purified that and simplified it. And from my point of view, it's all in that Coptic art. It's all in that Coptic art, and almost everything you need to know is in that main stele. That's it. It's all there. This isn't just a piece of art for art's sake that Tesla has got here. This is absolutely chosen for its specificity and accuracy in every single respect I can think. And he was sending a message forward in time for those that had eyes to hear. Eyes to hear? Eyes to see. Ears to hear. All right, so I did a presentation, a small thing about what did the Romans know on my blog, and it was part of the archaeological sort of exploration I did in 2021 that I mentioned earlier. But I'm going to give you a huge gift, I believe. I've talked about this before. Oh God, there's so much I can give you, but I want to do this next. And when I went round the how should I put this? The old Roman site in the center of the wall by Hadrian's Wall. I asked the question, what did the Romans know and when did they know it? Because surely there was something that was, they were worried about, I think. And I'll come to the beautiful, beautiful images, absolutely stunning imagery that I have of this ancient masonry. So this is the blog that I'm referring to here. If you didn't see it, I'll share with you now. So this is on the center of the Hadrian's Wall. What did the Romans know? When did they know it? And it's the Roman town of Vindolandia. And here it is. They've got another sort of 50, 60 years worth of excavation to go here. And it has these very specific symbols which I recognized. And I talked about the fact how it linked into these things and so forth. And this one as well. Okay, with your Taurus here and your flux. Okay. But this, I think, probably, because it was very close to this, and at least 1,600 years old, I think this is probably the most important of the ones that I took a photo of. And I'm going to try and show you now, because I think it answers the question that is necessary to be answered. Okay, so let me just go and get that. So we get rid of Odin. We'll get rid of the cauliflower. We'll put on our yin-yang lines. And we'll bring this up. Okay. So I think this answers the question that we want an answer to. Where is the safe zone here? Where is the safe zone here? Okay. Now note, a little bit below the Visa Capices here, where there's this depressurization zone here, you have this kind of like a little bit below there, okay? I'm going to pull that image that I just showed you up of that piece of metal from Vinderlandia. And here we go. It's exactly below there if you line up the two vortices, given the fact it's a little bit squiffy here. But this dome section here is above the Christ center. So if you can imagine, we know from the vortex here that the center of maximum chi density torsional field is here, and it will have very little dimension. Okay, it has less dimension than here and here, and it has much less dimension than the overall structure. And we've also got this one to look at as well, so you can see here, but this has got, it's in water, so it's a little bit more depressurization going on there. This is, I think, probably the better example here. Okay. So I think that this is the safe zone. Now, I said it, I'm not sure whether it's the center or this. Okay. And why is this important? Well, I've mentioned that I believe that this will be able to provide us with some sort of craft. And firstly, I thought, well, maybe if the craft looked like this, that would be the center zone. Okay? That would be the center zone. Okay? Now, we know we can have 48 divisions, and there's 48 divisions on the alien reproduction vehicle. But the thing is, this would give us our maximum kind of like a area in this top part here in order to have survivable people living. And so it might actually be the case, right? And so our Scandinavian lightning god's hammer would sit somewhere, how shall we put it? And it's not a cheese farmer's hammer. It's not a, you know, a wood carpenter's hammer. It's not like a mushroom grower's hammer, although it is in the shape of a mushroom. It's a lightning, symbol of lightning. It's a symbol of what lightning does when it impacts the ground. It's not chance. It's not chance. So here, so if we put on our finished structure here, I don't know, there seems to be too much more flux going on in here. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with this location, and especially not when you look at this. That doesn't give me the comfort zone. It doesn't look like the comfort zone to me. Okay? I think the comfort zone is here. I think we should be here. Okay? That's where I think we should be. There's our comfort zone. Okay? In here. This is where we can have our little people. And what we do is probably we need something that is able to channel the chi up and out through the center without causing too much, you know, problems. So, I don't know, some liquid metal, maybe, dense liquid metal might be the right thing to do. So not here, but possibly there. I'm still not saying it won't definitely be there, but based off this 1600-year-old plus artifact, and I believe this, I believe that this wasn't made by the Romans. I believe that this artifact was taken by the Romans and it came from north of the wall. And I believe that this is what we've got here. Why? Well, this is the vortex structure here. And if I put in our picked structure here, sorry, not the picked structure, I've given the game away there. If I put in my Finnish Ukanasvasara, whatever it is, you can see that the zone here is better aligned. And so you're still within the protective area of the vortex structure. And so you will be shielded from the ether, okay? But you are in this safe zone as defined here. Okay? Now, is this angle 37 degrees? I don't know. What I do know is I have some construction lines. Are they here? Maybe they're here. I have some construction design lines. The line from the center point of the top side of this inner circle here, across this line and to the tangent over here, is almost exactly 37 degrees. And according to, as I said earlier, according to the the antique science of the Chaldeans, the number 37 symbolizes the force, the capacity, and the power. Okay, so the force would be coming up here, right? So possibly this almost exactly 37 degrees here could be that. I don't know. It is speculation at this point. Possibly the angle on the alien reproduction vehicle here, this should actually be not what it is here. It should be 37 degrees. It's slightly off. So this might just be a wrong calculation and whatever. I don't know. Okay. That being said, I believe I'm more likely, I think that this zone here is the safe zone and that the ARV will have its habitable section in that hemisphere that we've got, wherever we've got it. I'll get rid of that. Okay. All right. So this would protect the craft. This would propel the craft by changing the capacitance level, and by changing the phasing, you'll be able to tilt the craft and so on. So this would be propulsion, it would be anti-gravity, it would be very, very fast. I mean, as I said, the faster this goes, the faster it can go. So I can reasonably expect that, because I believe that the relic neutrino or the dark matter flux going through ordinary matter is basically the cause of inertia, and it's pressure from the environment moving towards a gravitational body that's actually condensing it, is the action of gravity, which is why you don't get gravity out in space, like free space. Then you're not prevented from accelerating faster and faster and faster, because you have something that when these things that cause you to have a finite speed are instantaneously moved with the coherent matter, so that the dark matter isn't seen by the ordinary matter, then you can travel at exceptionally fast speeds. Okay. And just for fun, I've put this in here, which is my ammonite. For a little bit of fun, there we go. So at the angle at which you get this phi ratio angle, which is chopping off the Finnish equivalent of the Thor's hammer, which is related to lightning, you get the vortex going into the center at the phi ratio. And you can imagine that here, where you have this capacitor array around the edge in 48 segments in the alien reproduction vehicle, that this provides the vector, the potential for the electrons to move around. They will set up a spin current which will be locked to the structure, I believe, somehow. Maybe because maybe this is a metal and it might be iron or whatever, or it might be locked by the material through the center or something, whatever. Yeah, by phasing the capacitor array around the outside, you will be able to tilt this left and right and propel yourself. Now, the angle I've also seen in, and I'll probably do this in another presentation. I think I'll probably leave it there. I think that's probably enough for today. Yeah, I'm going to leave that today. All right. So, in summary, I believe we have a technology that does all of the above. It is the God's toolbox with a little g, because it is not God. It cannot be necessarily the intent of God. We have conscious components that are part of God's consciousness, but not the omnipotent all of God consciousness, which is everything. I may be wrong. I'm trying the best I can. But it certainly kind of lines up. Yeah, it kind of lines up. And I think you're going to find it doesn't almost matter what you are looking at. In pagan art, Celtic art, the art north of the wall, Scandinavian art, Slavic art, Russian art. Every image you see from masonry, from wherever, going back to the Coptics and going back before then to the Egyptians and so forth. It's all there. It's been in our faces all of our lives, and it's literally in our faces. Right, I'm going to see if you've got any questions. Hi, Miria Ekman. Hi, son of Overbook. Okay, so if anyone's got any questions. Ever heard of black nitrogen? No, sorry, I haven't. So as a programming note, it's largely agreed that when I will be going to see Matsumoto, he seems to be quite excited about it. I need to prepare some presentations so he can have things to discuss that he already has thought about, and I am going to ask him a bunch of questions so that they can be prepared by the translator so that we can hit the ground. Plan is to do it over a period of about a week and do it slowly, so that he's not pressured too much. He's in his early 80s, had a little bit of a health issue the last couple of years, not that, I think it's very, very important that as a lifelong nuclear scientist who really was one of the pioneers to find a lot of the key features of this process, I will share some of the little bit of crazy with him, but this is what it is, and what is pagan religion if it's not recognition of how nature is working? If nature is God, and I mean literally all of nature, then these people weren't staring at their iPhones and their whatever smart devices all day, looking at cat videos and people lip syncing against a song. They were looking at nature. They had to live by nature. They had to understand nature in an intuitive way. And so for thousands and thousands of years, since man could think, they were interacting with nature and seeing how nature works. It's not surprising to me that they would have worked out a lot of stuff that seem a little bit, really, is that how it is? Well, they're not doing these things by chance. These angles and these shapes are not by chance. They're just not by chance. It's just not by chance. We have got such an unimaginable level of arrogance in the belief that we have the advanced technology now. But frankly, does the ARV look like it's advanced? It looks like it was cobbled together in a couple of months because someone really knew what they were doing, and look, it does it, right? And I expect that's exactly what it is. It was cobbled together in a couple of months. Someone got one, or someone got a drawing and they go, oh God, this is exactly what it is. Or someone just hit the jackpot, or someone told them this is how it works, you know. Sorry, I should have said it earlier, like about 5,000 years earlier, but maybe that was the last time they were flying around in such craft. Okay. So, Rob, there is a lot, I imagine, of, how should we put this, of just seeing what someone did in the past and repeating it. Like, because, oh, this looks nice, this looks nice, this looks nice, and it's classical, or it came from this culture or this culture, so it makes us look cultured. And you can't get away from it here near Vienna, right? And a lot of the Masonic orders were around this part of the world. You know, just up the road here is the last hurrah of the Knights Templar. It's actually a place I've been to a number of times. It's called Castle Bozov, where they went round the whole of Europe, and they spent, like, in today's term, well over $1 billion, and it finished, I think, in 1904, 1903. They got the best sarcophagi, the best roof friezes, and it's basically a gallery of all of the best things. So I'm going to visit there again in the summer and take some detailed photos with new understanding. You know, I think probably there will be a lot of things in there that will give us extra insight. But, you know, given the fact that this gives us the ability to make and destroy and transmute matter, teleport energy and suck energy from a distance, all of the above about earthquakes and volcanoes and weather systems, and to be able to create a faster than light craft and propulsion and anti-gravity and stuff, you know, it's probably a lot there, right there. I mean, there's a lot to work with right there. So yeah. There's no guessing why the Tesla logo is that shape, right? What is the Tesla logo? Let's have a look at that. No. Tesla. Not that Tesla logo. Tesla. Helps if I can spell it correctly. Tesla logo. Oh dear. Oh, look at that. Yeah. In fact, look at the Tesla's logo, right? It's a bit of a joke, really, isn't it? Let's have a look at what these hammers used to look like. Oh, look at that. That's what these Slavic amulets used to look like. Now look at Tesla's logo. Now look at the Slavic hamlets. Now look at the Tesla's logo. Oh dear. Isn't that funny? Look, Tesla's logo. Oh. Da-da, da-da, da-da. Da-da, da-da. It's not a coincidence. Yeah, I just, it's like, come on, Elon, stop it with the jumping rockets and get onto the anti-gravity craft. We know you've got them, or we know they're going to give them to you. Stop it. Just go to point B. Stop it with the bit in between. He might not even know he is. Like, he's like, I need a logo for my Tesla company. And someone came to, what about this, Elon? What about this? It looks really good. It doesn't look anything at all. It doesn't look anything at all like this thunder symbol. It doesn't look at all like that. No, not at all. Anything at all like that. Oh, dear. Have you got any questions? When miniature replication of... You know, I've been thinking about this. You know, yeah, I think you have to have over something like 1.2 million volts or something on the capacitors. You need to be able to get this flux of electrons, and the electrons then are causing a vortex, just like they do when you do your Om and your meditating in the lotus position. So maybe it doesn't need that much, but it might need that much to lift a craft of that scale, okay, and to propel it. And you've got to be able to maybe phase those either radially or vertically. So let's put our craft in there. And we are looking at this as the safe zone. This is the safe zone because look at the head of this. Look at the head of this. And when I turn that off, you can see the head is still under there. It might poke up a little bit, I don't know, but this is, for me, this is the danger zone. This is the area at which you are going to potentially have destructive vortex of, you know, whatever it is. Bruce says, hey Bob, are you familiar with Otis T car? Yes, I am. Almost identical design to what you just showed. Is it really? I didn't know that. He allegedly studied under Tesla. Well, there you go. Not a surprise. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put the Tesla logo in there. Sorry. I know this is probably copyright and probably I'll get struck for this, but oh dear. Let's just see what it does. Certainly a public logo. I'm not advertising with it, am I? Oh dear. Let's see what it does when we drop it in there. Let's see how close it is. Open. We'll have a Tesla logo, please. Thank you. Not there. Don't want it there. Okay. All right. Let's drop this in. Real time. Here we go. What have we got here? Okay. Not suspicious at all. Let's okay. All right. Let's line that. It's not quite the same angle, is it? Maybe it might. Wait. Crosses up. Unless it's that bit. It's probably that bit, isn't it? Yeah. I swear he tried to make it look like a brake pad, didn't he? Okay, there we go. It's actually quite accurate, isn't it? So if I yeah, oh, what a crafty boy. God. Oh, look at that. Oh, and you know what? Haha, when you position it to the start of the vortex, this tip comes to the bottom of the Visa Pisces. That is not a coincidence. That is not coincidence. Ah, you cheeky boy. We got cheeky boy Tesla, and we got cheeky boy Musk, right? Yeah, so I guess this must be the safe zone. It must be the safe zone. Where's our craft? Not that one. Wrong place. Passengers splattered. Yeah. I think your safe zone is here. If I take out this and our what do we call it? Our ammonite. You can see how beautifully he's lined this up, where that goes into the vortex here. So he's encapsulated the start of the vortex at the phi ratio here. So if you put in the phi ratio, the construction line for the phi ratio, let's put it like that. Where is it? There. So he's got the start point here, which is accurate. And we take that off, and as this goes round in phi, he's got this matched up here. What a cheeky boy. Who did your design, Nick? Who did your design, Elon? Who did your design? Who did it? Where's our? I'd rather like our hundreds of millions of years old ammonite that I got off the beach down there in Cornwall or Devon. Okay, there we go. So that's it. So he's basically taking that down to the bottom of the Visa Pisces. Yeah. Yeah, it did look like the birdie. Okay, so anyone got any questions? Yeah, this is for educational purposes. Yeah. YouTube is asking me to insert ads. I'm not inserting an ad. It's probably because I'm being quiet. Yes, I have one. Hammer. Like, hammer time? Right, yeah. Well, they will do. Cathedrals will line up. Yeah. If you want to use energy efficiently, this is what you would do. You would use this structure. You are then working with nature. You are not fighting nature. You are working with nature. You are not fighting nature. Now, you could have a different opinion about what looks nice, but you'll be fighting nature. As it says in that Leviticus. What does it say in Leviticus? Leviticus doctrine. As I said earlier, it says, the order of nature is immutable. Therefore, all doctrines that anyone would attempt to build upon a change of these laws would be founded only in error. It's 1/12 of the motor winding. Well, if is it 1/12? How could that be 1/12? What you mean the angle here? This angle? I wouldn't be surprised if that angle there is that the Sussex triangle. It couldn't be. No, it couldn't be. Has he done that? No. Has he? No, isn't too pointy. I'm not even going to bother doing it. It's too pointy. So if you electrically boost a Geet reactor, you get balls quicker. Don't know. maybe. I don't think you need to. I think this will suck everything it needs. Once you've got, it's like you cannot stop this once it's working. It's no amount of opinion, no amount of protection. If you are in the suck zone, it will tear the matter apart. It will tear the matter apart. If you are in this suck zone down here, if we turn off Tesla's dodgy logo, we turn off the wonderful, wonderful Finnish Thor's hammer equivalent, okay, and we turn off our craft here. I'm gonna leave the thing in there. So yeah, if you are down in this zone, forget it, mate. Forget it. You're going to be vaporized, deconstructed at the subatomic level. So I want you to go out there and just look at the world. I will share this as a transparent GIF. This basic template here for the ratio. I'm always certain that these things would have been found before, and so I did my homework and I created a whole bunch of different lines and sent them out into the reverse image search, and I found a piece of French funerary masonry which precisely showed this structure as I showed you earlier, and that is here in this image here. Okay, and it was repeated on all three sides. So the small circle with the spot, small circle with the spot. There we go, done. Right. Son of Overbook, it's possible that crop circles are made with this. Yeah, they emit a form of radiation that interacts with the water in the nodules on the straw, and apparently makes them expand. Maybe it's like a steam-like expansion, but the things keep growing in real crop circles. But they have a radiation signature afterwards, and also crops seem to grow either better or worse. I don't know. I think it's better actually afterwards for a couple of seasons. And I don't imagine that crushing a bit of corn down with a piece of wooden plank would make different crops or whatever grow better over across seasons. And as I said earlier, Newgrange got this right. They got this right 5,200 years ago. 5,220 years ago, I think it is. Is it 5,220? I think it is. Yeah. 5,220 years ago. The Chaldeans, they came up with the 37. The 37, which is in the number 10, the one Christ. That's the one Christ, which is at the center of the 300-year-old, clearly Masonic door of what was the house that ruled the largest empire the world has known. So we look here. So the Skara Brae are Celtic people. Did this before Tutankhamun. But you know what? Nature got there first. Why? Because it is nature. You can have an opinion about a different aesthetic, but you are fighting God. You are fighting the intention of construction of the universe. And, you know, someone might want to change their appearance to look a bit more like Tutankhamun, as Yeonmi Park appears to have done, or maybe not. Maybe it's just chance. It just accidentally looked like that, but I don't think so. Whether she intentionally made it look like that, I don't know, or just went to create an aesthetic that she thought was appreciated. And it's not surprising. It's surprising that she chose something that fitted with what nature creates. So I'm going to do a special on the north of the wall. I will maybe do that next week, or I might focus... No, next week. No, next week. Aha. Yeah, it's next week. As I said, just to trailer it again, David Pantone, Paul Pantone's son, was called by Dan Easton, and they talked about what we're proposing and the fact that people are getting involved, and they're going to share information that's not been shared before publicly, and with a view to getting this out and you know, making a difference for man. And that is good in my view, and we don't want to be wasting any time. Okay. Oh, you cheeky boy. You cheeky boy. In fact, actually, when you look at this, I can tell you what this is. He's got another Visa Capices here. That's what he's got. I'm going to put in the other construction lines, and you'll see what I mean. Not there. Where is it? There we go. Is it that one? No. I need a bigger circle here. I need one of these circles there. Have I got one? No, not there. I'm gonna just do that for the sake of doing it. But that's what's going on there. I can see how it's been made now. Such a cheeky boy. Yeah, we'll use that one. Why not? Nope. That one? That one? Yeah. Nope. Oh, come on. This is real time for you guys. This is how much I appreciate you. Like, oh, it's not quite all right. No. No, it's not that then. Excuse me. He has. Unless that is what it is. No, it's not. It's not that. He's not done that. Okay. All right. We'll forget that. No, he's really taken it off the way the vortex works, which for me is more interesting. No, it's not, Ron. It's not just that. It's the nipples, and I'm not going to do any practical demonstrations. It's the nipples to the navel, the where the umbilical cord goes, and when you think about it, that's where the new life is sucking life force from the mother through the umbilical cord, and the mother gives to the baby by giving out of the nipples. Right? It's the same as the, it's mirrored many times in the human body. When I say mirrored, it's replicated, this structure. There's nothing new in heaven and earth. How can I join the Zoom next week? I will post the link later in the week on Remote View and on other MFMP channels. That was a question by Creating Awareness. Yeah, well, it's going to look like a lot of things. Like I say, when I was just walking around the town, this is what I get confronted with. You know, it's been in our faces all of our lives, and it's literally in our face. It's been in our faces all of our lives. Why? Because it is how nature works. And I said that I would come to these vortices and this little nodule here. And I believe that that is, you know, the safe zone. You know, it's a symbolism of it. So, this was O-Day, Circle of Life. And using this wonderful Coptic Christian piece of art, when they had the purity of the knowledge that was given to these Masons from Jesus Christ. Jesus, who is given Christ name. The omega frequency. And then the 69 on here. One is smaller than the other. It goes from the small one to the big one. We've shown this in our experiments by Lion. The one that is behind is smaller, goes to the bigger one. This shows you that you can split them up. I showed you how you can have a string with a monopole at either end with the thread in between. And I've shown you how a physical that can be represented with a physical model in my hand. And I showed that when you have mixed ones, they join end to end, like the dome to the dome, because that's the easiest thing for them to locate. It's happening there and it's happening here. Okay. When you are producing and splitting the monopoles, they can join, you know, spike to front, because you basically got the head will be, let's say, south, and so they won't join. They will not join. Okay, but the north beam will join to the south, so you can get chains of them forming. This is exceptionally important work that was done at the Moscow Nuclear Physics Institute. And we showed how they form like this, and then we showed how, like, when the balls, you get two things here, or this is in sound, you get two areas of concentration. And this will be fractal. In here, there will be two as well. And I will do some more detail on that from various experiments. So these are not that separated, okay, in my view. And I talked about how within the circle here, above the central line, going through the chi, the Christ center, you have omega below, and so birth begins at the end of death, and death starts. You know, you're on your way to death. How this relates to Jacques Paranoff's work, and the fact that the living structure persists for days, whereas the dying structure dies very quickly. You need to, when a life has ended, you need to give the energy back to the universe quickly. Okay. And Tesla knew this in this very, very almost perfectly constructed image. I talked about the Odin symbol at the bottom of this, which we had in the center and the outside, actually, of our one side of the cauliflower from Lion from 2017 or 18. And that we have this one half, the living half. He's in the living, right? And so one half of this lampshade is showing the living part from the center here of the alpha through to the death here as it disappears from view here. But it's a cycle. Who and where and when will we see Tesla again? And so looking at the center symbol here, we have chi. And chi is commonly used as an abbreviation for the word Christ. And it represents magnetic susceptibility. And that is not a coincidence. In philosophy, these cultures, they all traded with each other. So it is not surprising that the qi is the same sound as it is in Chinese, and this is life force, breath, like the symbol is of the yang in Egyptian, breath and circulation and energy force. So the qi is the energy force, the life force. And then rho is used to stand for density and meaning head. So this is Christ head, Christ head. And also it is talking about stream or fluid or flow. Rho is this sound of the flowing, and in its form it shows the movement and energy of all things. All things. And it says here specifically that all letters of the Greek alphabet signals and describes some peculiarities of nature. Nature is God. All of nature. Everything you can see, feel, touch, think about. It's nature, and that is God when it's in its entirety. But the rho shows the movement of energy in all things. Therefore, one can assume that all things have Christ energy. And it seems to be the suitable denominator to express every movement, because it seems to have the meaning of a torsion and exists in the flow. As a flow through the letter rho, the movement it imitates, from Plato. And so what you are saying here is there is, as I said before, a torsional moment that goes through. There is a torsional moment, a torsional moment. There is a torsional moment. This is from the other aspect. So you have something coming out of here, coming around there, a torsional moment going through the center. And this is the qi, the life force density, which is torsional. It's very, very, very precise diagrammatic representation of the science of the function of God. I give you O'Day, Circle of Life. Yes, I will be doing some early live interviews with John Hutchison next week as part of book Mr. Possible. I will also start to probably reveal some of the rewards that have not been talked about, some nice ones. And so that project will be moving forward. I sometimes juggling who's going to be with me. And I felt that making it clear what O-Day was and what it means was the most important use of my time in the short term. And with many of you out there that have followed this journey these last 5-6 years, you are the ones that are equipped to call me out on something that's not correct, refine things, bring new things to the table, challenge things, whatever. But you are the people that I would like you to, see where I'm going wrong. Like I say, it was a difficult thing to come to terms with back in 2017. And I said, probably most people in the field will hate me by the time that this is over because of the implications. I accept that. But to take that position, you have to literally say, that Jesus was wrong. The Masonic order, which part of it became the Freemasons, all of the nature's born greatest civilizations, they all got it wrong. And for some reason, you that can't see the truth in this, the inherent truth of this scientific document, you are somehow right. And the fact that it does this and it does this and it does this, and Tesla knew about it. And frankly, it's pretty clear that Elon Musk is either, pretending he doesn't know, or someone's running the show and is the figurehead. I don't know. But this logo didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen by accident. This is a copy, in my view, largely, of druidic or pagan, pre-Christian understanding of how nature worked. And specifically, lightning and ball lightning. Specifically. Like I say, not cheese making or weaving. It's specifically a symbol representing lightning with the proper ratios. How unless it's real? All these different peoples all over the world just got really, really lucky and all came up with the same structures. It's there. It's yin yang. Bob, please name that Mason castle again with spelling. It's called Castle Bozoff. So let me just bring that up. Actually, let me bring that up for you. Castle Bozoff. Ta-da! It's pretty funky. Look at this place. Da 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 da. Okay, give me some images. There we go. Pictures. What have we got? It's a pretty funky place. Yeah, absolutely no sign of. Okay, come on, give me an image. Okay, I'm not getting images. It just keeps taking me places. Well, I can see, where was it before there? Look. There's not a lack of vortices here. Not a lack of them on here. No, not at all. I think you're going to find all kinds of things encoded into this place. Has a proper drawbridge and a moat with a drawbridge and like a spike pit. It's quite fun, actually. Yeah. Any images there? Castle Bozoff. Images. Look, it's a pretty special place. Look at that. Ta-da! Looks like a fairy tale place, doesn't it? Yeah. That's a room, isn't it? Back to cheeky boy. Cheeky boy Tesla, cheeky boy Elon Musk. So, the mountain Moses went up had near constant thunder and lightning. Lucky him. I mean, assuming he didn't get got. I think they were making monoatomic gold. Flinders Pietri found a mountaintop temple with white powder. Maybe. So after I've done the live Zoom on the Geek next week, the week after or soon after, I will start looking more at the structure of ball lightning and the evidence we have for what that is. Some of which I've shared, but I have more stuff that I need to get out the door so you can know in your head that this is what's going on to the best of where we can define it at this stage. Yeah, transmutation is a metaphor, is it? Is it cloning? What is it? I can't really speculate. You know, as I was trying to say earlier, the way I kind of do things is I might be wrong, but I'm trying to be truthful all of the time. And the only way I can really know that it's truthful is that if you see something and you repeat what you did and you see the same thing. And because nature cannot lie, because it only has one way of doing things, right? This is what it's saying. It has one program, literally one program, universe-wide, right? So if you keep seeing the same thing, that's because it's on the program, right? If you do something and you're not seeing it, it's because like you're off resonance. You're off resonance. Resonance, you'll get this. No resonance, you'll not get this. Yeah, I'm not surprised, Polygon. He's saying that, you know, I can't advocate for people to ingest things, but he's suggesting that he takes colloidal gold every night and he gets dreams. So, I think Masons now, having reviewed what I've done over the last couple of weeks in context of the actual science behind it and what it does and what it can give us, I believe the Masons were entrusted with the sacred knowledge. And it's a bit weird because it absolutely clarifies in my mind what God is. And I've kind of always thought he's like everything. It's everything, not necessarily that it necessarily has a sex. It's not you can't put a face on it other than it looks something like that. it's not a face per se. It's a how should we put this? It's basically a design of how the world universe works. That's kind of it, you know. And that Christ did fix the errors in the understanding of those people, from, you know, coming out of Mesopotamia and the Egyptians and the pagans, and he brought all that knowledge together and taught the true knowledge, the truth and the way and the light. This is the way to do it. This is the truth of what it is, and you can see the light with it, right? So, 100%, in my view, someone, given the name of Jesus and given the credit to being Christ, was a real entity. And so, I don't know whether other particular charismatic leaders in the past had been able to show the technology in such extreme detail. I imagine you just need to find it, and then it will reveal itself if you pay attention. And so I was a choir boy from the age of 5. I kind of lost my religion when I started traveling, and I realized all these different nations had more people that weren't Christians. And I would say that I'm definitely believe in one true God, which is everything. There is spirit that runs through everything, and there is the intention, the Son, so there's the God, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they work together to be the whole. You can see actually, with this technology, that if you put too much into this, you destabilize it. If you don't give it enough, it dies. And this is a message in, Jesus' teaching, that you don't need to take more than you shouldn't take more than you need, but you do need to take enough. Otherwise, it's not going to be good for you, right? So these structures need the same. They take what they need, and pretty much no more. Now, if you drive it harder, I guess they're going to take more because they need more to sustain at that level. Bob, when are you coming to the Netherlands? I do need to pick up some equipment from Henk. I don't know when I'm next coming to the Netherlands. It might need to be before I go to Japan. I don't know. Or I'll need to at least get him to send the camera with me to me for a little while. Evos essentially are kind of like a living object. They are. They have products, they consume things, and they have a lifespan. And even within one Evo, you've also got like a kind of a maker and breaker anyway. But actually, if it's just like all north, kind of the same thing. But yeah. One spinning one way and one spinning the other. I mean, they all spin like this, but one's rotating that way and one's rotating that way. It's like life and anti-life. So for me, this process, I don't know what it feels like for you. There's a couple of people in this field that how should we put this? They're the kind of Christians, and I've got no problem with it, but they really want you to know that they can save you. And I asked one of them the other day, and he probably knows who I'm talking about. How do you feel with what I'm sharing here? I mean, how does it make you feel to know that these absolute linchpin, these critical elements of Christian history are directly representing the God's toolbox, which gives you all of these different things? How does that feel? I haven't had an answer back yet. So maybe you would like to answer me. I said, how does this sit with you, learning that the single phenomena in nature accounts for all of Christian symbology, as well as everything we have observed in every experiment, and now, it would seem, the total understanding of Tesla, the arrangement of I.O. Downing Street, i.e. one Christ, Downing Street, and the actual form of our faces. How does one deal with that? It's like, for me, it's cathartic. I feel released. It's also great to understand that, honestly, life really is eternal. It absolutely is eternal. I have no fear of death at all. None at all. Literally zero fear of death. I don't want to die. I like being alive. But, as it says, we continue to be part of the great consciousness that is God. People kept asking me, what is O-Day? And it's like, O-Day is when it's obvious to you that this is how it is. For me, it was in 2017, but I didn't really have all of the pieces to be able to show it to anyone else. And now I'm of the firm belief, you're just going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it everywhere, even if you're trying not to. You're going to see it in your child. You're going to see it in your wizened grandpa's face. You're going to see it in your dog. You're going to see it. You're going to see it in the way the trees move, the shape of the trees. It's going to be everywhere. Yeah. Rare condition says, Father goes to the Holy Spirit, goes to the Son, living God. Polygon says, I've also lost my fear. Not that I don't care about my life. No. I really care about my life. Mostly because, you know, actually, partly doing this, but partly doing my, just being there for my family. In, you know, and everyone gets that wrong as well. I get it wrong as well. I try to be the best I can be. I'm sure it's in music. In fact, like, obviously music is something that needs harmony. It needs structures that work together. No doubt this will be in music. And what would sound great to a person is something that isn't fighting the harmony, the resonance. It's like a great acoustic environment will probably be one that allows for harmonious, you know, reinforcement, but in a good way, not in a bad way. Death is just a new part of the journey. It's your release to become other things. So, creating awareness, saying Bob Black, nitrogen is conductive. It's the surface tension in ball lightning making it black to the eyes, maybe. I think, like in the case of the Shaq Paranoff here, this blackness here, I believe it's extraction, and this is dumping. But I could be wrong. This could be a cluster in the same way that I showed you here. And these little glowing bits coming off it could be similar to this. But where I'm coming from, and I'm not showing you, am I? So, you know, this is the dark one. I'm saying that, you know, it could be like this. This is a thing that exists. This is like a small version of what's going on in the Vega Valley that I have, you know, behind me there. You know, that's a whole wall of things that look like this. Yeah. But that is why it was so shocking to me when I came across this thing on the HHO, or rather specifically a Marsagas on the 10 yen coin. For me, this in 2019, this was a, you know, I'd seen this in 2017, okay? And I'm talking about this in a second when you see it. I'd seen this in 2017, obviously without the ammonite. And so I knew there was depressurization going on here, and this is on video. So, but that I'm just thinking, okay, it's depressurizing the area down here, and so the bubbles are coming out. But when seeing this, which I'll get in a sec, and seeing this, and knowing that this is an element in a sphere that's not in this material, and it's at this point, and that it has this kind of wavy bit that goes up here, and this is a carbon, nearly pure carbon, well, it's a pure carbon film, okay? Realizing that this is ripping matter apart, I just thought, oh, this is just next level stuff. And knowing that this has to be known by certain people, I just thought, yeah, what do I do? This is another moment in my life where I have to choose whether I'm going to be able to go through with explaining this or walk away. And I chose to go forward because I don't want those that are playing like gods. I don't want those that are playing like gods to lord it over us with technology that can destroy the planet if they make it into weapons and have a war with it. Even 2 nuclear bombs. If 2 nuclear bombs go off on either side of the equator, you get a counter-rotating vortices, and it'll strip the atmosphere. This was calculated by Stoyan Sargachev in the early 2010s, and he presented it in a video. But you know, within a few hours, we would lose our atmosphere with the right size bomb on either side of the either side of the equator, and you get even potentially even on one side of the equator. So the nuclear bomb will create these large structures, and once we've lost our atmosphere, we've got issues like the oceans will boil in a few hours. It wouldn't look good. It wouldn't look good. We are literally at the moment, to cover some people's bad actions, we are literally threatening real apocalypse. I don't mean like a few people got hungry and died. I'm talking about apocalypse, like total end of this beautiful sphere. And the same technology can literally make us space people in a good way. It can clean up all waste. It can water everything that needs to be watered. It can, feed everyone that needs to be fed. And none of that needs to be chopping up birds, chopping down trees, doing all that nasty stuff. Creating Awareness says, what magnitude of pressure do you think is in ball lightning atmospheres? Well, various people are saying that within parts of the structure, you're looking at 50 million Teslas. You're looking at 5 times the pressure at the center of the sun. The same kind of pressure as is in the center of a neutron star, a pulsar. And so, this has a binding energy that's far in excess, in places, far in excess of any ordinary matter. And therefore, it does novel nuclear reactions. And it's superconducting and superfluid to boot. Yeah, Cosmic Dave, you've got to hurry up building that spacecraft now. No excuses now. You know how to wind the coils. You know the principle on which it likely runs with the best of my ability. It lines up with ancient and modern, and even people pretending they're doing it in other ways. It's theatre. What's going on is theatre, I believe. It's just, they must know it's theatre. Someone must know it's theatre. We know it's theatre, in my view. I might be wrong. But, this is... What we're going on here is this is one of the most ancient symbols in the world. The yin yang. Give it credit to those, our northern cousins. There we go. Thor's hammer, the equivalent in Finland. And so, I believe that you will see that the reason the Knights Templar went to Scotland is that the people in Scotland were the last people to really, really have the pagan knowledge. And they combined forces. And from there, they spread it out to, as it said, Italy and the Scandinavian countries. And so it's not surprising that then they are reflecting this understanding and the knowledge. And it is the knowledge. It's the knowledge. It is the occult, i.e. hidden technology. It's what it is. No more mystery. Yes, Mary Jones, I will be talking about those. The pics. She's talking about the pics. So, I have one image in here from the pics, but I have taken the most beautiful images in 2021. And so I will show you this, which is from a horde, from a picked king here. And very simply, you've got your fractal torus here. In this case, it's got 3. I showed you a 3 vortex structure earlier today. This is making our torus, very nicely rendered. We have our etheric matter coming in our fluffiness, going through in one torsional way, going through the center and coming out in another torsional way, producing a fleur-de-lis. The fleur-de-lis has dense matter in it, okay? And down here we have the vortex, and it's pulling up matter in this dark channel area here. Right, now if I take that structure there and I rotate that, okay, we have our vortex going in, we have our vortex going in, our Sothic triangle coming down to the area of destruction of matter. The Pict people were all over this. When I said, what did the Romans know and when did they know it? Why did they build the wall? I'm telling you now, I believe it's they feared the Pict people. They feared them because they still had the Christ knowledge. They had nothing to be able to fight them. Go and have a look at the Pictish stuff. But I can tell you, I've had the pleasure of being right there next to many of these stones, and it's quite spiritual. They handed down this knowledge and it's never been properly explained, but you're going to get the explanation, I believe, to the best of my ability. 2020, I wanted to go there for years, ever since this kind of dawned on me. I believe my mum was descended from Pictish people, and I think the Masons chose her to breed with my father, who was a Grand Mason. Go figure. That's what I've been told anyway. I think Romans just did not know how to fight the Picts. They were so advanced. I'll show you this with respect to the breakup of material here. Where are we? So there you go. The point that it's breaking up here, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. I'll go to the volumetric one from Lion here and get rid of that one. And there we go, pigs. We go to the here. So at the point, literally the dome here on the picked symbology. There we go. Okay, so this was, if I can get it, Ode, the Circle of Life. Hopefully you have the gift of knowing that life is eternal and to not fear death. Certainly that is something that I got out of this journey. And hopefully you know that we have literally the means to solve all of the major intractable, so-called intractable problems that Earth has. And I said they will stop at nothing to stop this from coming out. I believe now firmly that the attempt at destroying Christian faith around the world is an attempt that people who would possibly study it and have access like we do to these images from all over the world like we didn't have in the past, someone would realize sooner or later. So let's stamp it out. It's literally like killing the firstborn. If no one looks at the information, no one can find out. You've seen that tactic played out a lot in the last couple of years. Doesn't matter if it's true if no one sees it. It was my duty to show you. I had no choice. As embarrassing as some might find this to talk through. It's not unscientific. This is the science. This is the knowledge, in my view. I may be wrong. I've been wrong in the past, but I don't think I am. Please find out where I'm wrong. Please help. It's all over nature from beginning to end. Tesla knew it. Tesla knew it. Chi is the life force. Rho is the torsional flow and density of that force. This is the Christ head, the life force torsional density. It drives all things and is in all things. Thank you very much. My name is Bob Greenyer, and this was Ode, Circle of Life. Good night, buenas noches, dobro noc. Buenas será.